sorry, additional sponsor of today's program, and also they are partners of Solanix, and then you will hear more about what they are partnering with us for and how they will support you all here as we move forward. So, once again, my name is Samuel, and I have 15 plus years of experience in software engineering. So I'll go ahead and turn off my video so I don't distract you over here. So let me do that here, and cool. Okay, so um, next is 1 second. Next is okay. So you are here for tech to learn about tech. Some engineers, some people here wants to learn about C#.net, while some people are freshers. They are new to technology, and I just want to help you to understand how to start your journey and how to make your decision. So that's the reason why I have this particular slide here, rather than just jumping into, hey, come in, learn backend and the rest of it. So in tech, there are lots of career paths, but I have listed a few here which are quite popular and I want you to know about it. So there's the business analyst or business analysis, where what they do is to analyze a business and help technology experts to understand how that business or that process will benefit a company so that the software engineering department builds that product. There's the product owner. What product owner does is they help convert those requirements that has been prepared by the business analyst or project managers or product managers. They help convert those requirements into what we call user stories. To make them easy, it's just a step-by-step process for a software developer or a software engineer to build a product. So it is a product owner that does that. They understand what we call flowchart, and they understand what we call algorithm, which is a step-by-step process to convert a requirement, a user requirement, into what a software engineers would build. Then we have the DevOps. These guys were formerly known as they were formerly the network engineers, though we still have network engineers of today. But most DevOps engineers, what they do now is that they migrated from having or managing physical infrastructures. And when most companies move to the cloud, they also move to the cloud. When I say cloud, I mean an infrastructure that exists over the internet. So before now, to host a software or to host a digital product within your environment, you will have to buy and own a server. But with since when we have cloud providers like Microsoft, Amazon, and the rest of it, Digital Ocean and the rest. So there were less need for physical network engineers and more need for virtual network engineers or virtual infrastructure engineers. So most of them moved into DevOps. The good thing I love about DevOps is that they are quite close to the software engineer. So they help the software engineer to deploy the codes that is being written by software engineers. So they write some sort of code, but they don't write the kind of code. They don't write codes to build applications. They write code to deploy applications. We have the Scrum Masters. What the Scrum Master does is kind of like a project manager, but within the software development team, to ensure that the software engineers or the software developers, they have everything they need to be successful, and they help to ensure that the product is built within the timeline. So they are more like the class prefects, you know. So those are the Scrum Masters. We have the product designers, the UI UX engineers. What they do is that they are the one that understand how a product should look like. When you use some products like let's say WhatsApp, Facebook, you enjoy those products because somebody actually imagined how you, the user, would use it, and the person went ahead to design a mock-up, a template, and different kind of blueprints to ensure that you enjoy the usability of that software. And he then converted it into what the software engineers would understand, and they use his own design, his own framework, his own blueprints to build the software. So if you are good with graphics, if you are good with understanding what you think somebody would need, then I think that's a good place to look at. There are software testers, as the name says. They basically test the software that the software developer writes for quality and ensure that your software cannot be your software doesn't have any issues, doesn't have any errors, and cannot be bypassed or broken by the hackers of that are usually threats towards organizations. So software testers help you to test that and ensure that your application or your program is fine. They also criticize the kind of software that a software developer writes in a good way to create the mindset of writing better software. We have the mobile developers. They are the software engineers that build softwares for the mobile device. So if you have WhatsApp on mobile, it was definitely built by a mobile engineer. If you have WhatsApp on iOS, it's also built by a mobile engineer. Then we have the front-end developers. They are the web developers. They are the web software engineers. They build softwares that exist on the web. Okay, so the front-end developers are one who build softwares and websites that exist on the web. For instance, many of you went to Solanix.ng to register for this program. That Solanix.ng was built by a front-end developer. Okay, and the registration, whatever you registered on that platform, the usability of everything that a product designer would recommend, it is the front-end developer that creates that reality from that mock-up or blueprint so that a user can access the application the same way you accessed Solanix website to register for this program. Then there's the backend developers, which is what we are going to cover today. And we will also introduce you into backend development, and we will actually write some code and build a backend application in a very fast and easy way today in this program. So the backend developers are the people who build the engine of the software. Imagine a car. The car looks good. There's a lot of the dashboard is great. The color is nice. The seat is great, and you just want to hit the road with that particular car. So the look and feel of a car is great because of the job of the product designer and the front-end developer. But the car works, the AC works, the car moves because there's the engine that runs that car. That engine in the software engineering world is built by the backend developer. So you went to Solanix to register for this program, but after you registered, hey, after a while you got an email. Hey, after a while you got a notification for the invite. Hey, after a while you got notification again via WhatsApp. Those are automations. Those are the engine that drives this whole free training process, and that engine was built by a backend developer, and that is what you are going to learn today, as well as the future of how to be that and also being that. Then I also added cybersecurity because they are the ones that ensure that all whatever is built is safe. Is safe because you don't want to build a software for a bank or build a software that manage the Nigerian Nigerian immigration database or the Nigerian information database, and somebody is gaining access into your personal information. The person sees where you live. The person knows, he knows he knows those in your family who are late. The person can actually clone a dead person's identity and give it to somebody, and the person can start using that identity and also use that identity to claim the funds of that dead person. So things like cybersecurity is what helps to stop an organization from to stop threats that digital threats or cyber threats that attacks an organization. Those are the guys that handles that. So now that you have all this information, let's move to the next slide, which is backend engineering or backend development. So yeah, our focus is on C#.NET backend engineering, or to become a C#.NET backend engineer. And some of you who have been into software engineering before or who have tried to learn software engineering before, you'll be wondering, but Samuel, why backend? Why not front end? Why not the rest? For instance, you gave us about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 career paths here. And also backend backend engineering has different kind of programming languages. There's Python, there's Java, there's the rest of them. There's Golang, there's Node.js for those who know JavaScript. Then you now wonder, why the hell should I learn C#.net? Why C#.net? Number one, first, why backend? And number two, why C#.net? So this slide will tell you why. So we did our research, like Success previously mentioned, and we noticed this. We also noticed this from my own, also with my experience and a lot of the people who we spoke to. We also got the research that basically all oil and gas companies, at least in Nigeria, they all use C#.net. In fact, their software is run with Microsoft C#.net for their backend engineering, all of them. Chevron, I have an experience working with Chevron. Hey, that was what we did. Total, I had an interview with Total, and I got that interview with Total because I have very good experience with C#.net. I was giving the offer to Total, but I chose not to go to Total, and that is a conversation we will meet after this slide. Then fintechs in Nigeria, most of the fintechs in Nigeria, and they use C#.net backend. The fintechs like Precise Financial System, AppZone, InterSwitch. I heard InterSwitch also use Java, but mostly they use C#.net .net for their backend for their backend, the software that runs their backend. Then we also have FinTrack, is another company that runs their backend. And these are fintechs in Lagos, in Nigeria, and a lot of them use C#.net as their backend technology. Though some use Python, I work with a company that use Python, but I rather lean towards if I have 100 companies looking at requesting that needs backend engineering course, and I have 4 looking for Python, I rather move towards or tilt towards the environment where there's scarcity in that labor and there's need for that labor, and that is where I find myself. Then logistics. I've worked with multiple logistics companies, and I have somebody I think I saw on this call that currently work with a logistics company, and they currently use C#. They currently use a Microsoft technology. They use I think they use Visual Basic.net, but they are now migrating into C#.net. So if you know C#.net, they are actually looking for guys like you because they want you to convert their whole Visual Basic to C# so that they can be among those who are using a top Microsoft technologies. Then multinationals, they use C#.net C#.net backend engineering, programming language. And I have good experience with some multinationals that use it. There's an example of ESPC. ESPC is Edinburgh Solicitors Property Center. They reside in the UK. There is Zonal reside in the UK, and there are a lot that will show you as we progress with this particular course. Then banking, basically all the banks that I have worked with and the one that I have collaborated with, they all use .NET for their backend engineering. So for the fact that they are this organization that use it, then my advice to anybody is to jump into C#.net backend engineering. So this is one of the reasons why I am pushing for this, because we are also currently recruiting C#.net backend engineering role for some of these fintechs and some of these banking environments. And we have more roles than the people. So there's space, meaning if you're a very good C#.net backend engineer now, we can actually secure a job for you between now and maybe 1 or 2 months, which is the entire process that goes for the recruitment process. Within 1 or 2 months, we can secure a job for you as we speak if you are an experienced C#.net backend engineer. Then let's look at the average jobs monthly. In Nigeria, we are, from the research we did, we saw that and there are about I think 1,600 jobs, C#.net jobs that is posted monthly. Why there are about 200 and no, sorry, there are about 400 and something roles of companies, especially within the banking sector, that they do not advertise these jobs. they just reach out to talent headhunters, and these headhunters reach out to those who already have a job. Basically, what I mean by that is that if, let's say, you are working with First Bank, and Zenith Bank is looking for a .NET, C# .NET backend engineer. What these talent headhunters does is that they won't go to the job markets to post to say they are looking for these jobs. They will target somebody that works in First Bank to say, leave your First Bank job, come work with Zenith. Now there's a gap in First Bank. First Bank will go to Stanbic IBTC. They will tell them, leave your Stanbic job, come work with First Bank. We will pay you more money. First Bank will then go to logistics company or multinational company, leave your job. That's why you see people resigning from Chevron, Total, like me, and moving to another company to earn, another company, a fintech company, to earn way more than what the oil and gas company pays. So that is in Nigeria. In UK, our research shows that there are 10,000 plus jobs that are posted for .NET monthly, and this is collecting data from Indeed, LinkedIn, and other job sites. I think Total Jobs, as well as talent headhunters that does the same thing, that they don't post job, they just hit you directly in your DM, and I will show you evidence of that as we move forward. So back again, if we move to the next line, which is the average salary, and this is the reason why you want to learn C#.NET. C#.NET is one of the software engineering jobs that commands the high salary in Nigeria. And that's the reason why you see someone like me leaving the oil and gas industry to a fintech or to go work in the banking sector, because there's the average salary in Nigeria between 500,000 to 2 million. So if you, let's say, you go through the Solanix program and you are stable, you gain the industry experience that we promise, and you learn C#.NET backend engineering, we can assure you that you can land a job between 500,000 and 800,000. And when you are stable in that particular job, or when you are competent in that particular job, we can assure you that within 1 year or so, you can jump from that 500 to 800,000 to 800,000 to 1 million in 1 year. If you are competent, you can do that. If you are competent, you can do that. The secret with that is that you are not going to apply as a fresh graduate, or you are not going to apply as an entry level. So the disadvantage a lot of people have is that they go apply for a job at an entry level because they just learned this thing. But what Solanix is bringing is that after you've learned, you will come, in quotes, work with us, but not work. We will give you the life project for you to work on. You will work on those real life projects, and then you will add those projects and Solanix as a company, Solanix NG, to your CV, and that shows that to a potential employer that you have been working as a software engineer with Solanix in the past, or with Solanix partners in the past, like MyRecharge or like Wedding Registry. You'll be working for them for 1 year or 2 years, even if technically that's not really a job, but you'll be working with us for that period. And you can take that experience to go command 800,000 naira in a bank, or 1 point something million in a fintech, from my experience. Then when you become a senior engineer, you can then command between 1.2 million to 1.5 million. If you become a lead engineer, you can then command million to 2 million. And please give me 1 second. Let me switch my audio device because I'm having a low battery with my Bluetooth. 1 second, please. Can anyone hear me? Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, please spam the chat with I can hear you. If it's loud and clear, let me know it's loud and clear. If it's not clear enough, let me know as well. Then I'll switch my audio device. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So while we progress, feel free to drop your questions, okay? And as soon as I see them, as we progress, I will I will respond to them, okay? Okay, so Let me move to the next slide because I think I have this all sorted. Okay, so this is something I don't want you to see now. We'll move to this one after what I have to say. So I'll quickly switch back before we get there. So, or do you know what? It's already there out there. So we'll just go ahead and move to the next slide. So, like I told you, that what company does is that they will look, they don't, sorry, what um company does is that sometimes they don't post jobs, they reach out to recruiters, or we call them talent headhunters. These talent headhunters do not post this job. They go and look for somebody who is comfortable, okay, or someone who already has a job. They mostly target those who have a job. Unfortunately, they do not target those that do not have existing experience or those that are not currently working. And that is why I am here to give you the opportunity that I have to put you at the position that I have. So what they do is that they go target those who are currently working, and they, I don't know if the right word to use is, they seduce you with more money. Most times they want to know what you earn, and they seduce you with more money. So to leave your organization to the next organization. So this is my LinkedIn DM. I could have just gone to LinkedIn.com and whip up my DM, but the reason why I chose to do this is because I want to blur the name for privacy's sake, and I don't want to get into trouble with whoever, for data protection. I don't want to share the name of those guys here so that some of you guys won't also go and start spamming them with messages to say, hey, please, I need a job. Come and help my ministry. So this is one. Look at the message on the left. Hi, Samuel. Long story short is that they are reaching out to employ a lead developer role. That will be a great. And note, I have not applied before now. Employers will ask you to send an application letter asking you to state the reason why you believe you are you are fit for that role, why you believe that you should be the one, you should be the selected candidate. So they are asking you to defend that in your application letter. But now, what talent headhunter does is that you don't even apply anymore. They are the one telling you, who is doubting yourself, that that I'm reaching out about a lead developer role. Is a role this lady is hiring, or was, I don't know. She said she said uh, um, I'm reaching out about a lead developer role that could be a great fit if you are looking to step into a position with real technical ownership and team leadership. They are the one telling me that will be a great fit for the role. And I have massive, crazy amount of this kind of messages in my LinkedIn inbox. So that is for that. After this one, we got on a call, and at the end of the day, the offer for this role is 70,000 pounds. Pounds. That was the offer for that particular role. Look at the requirement. What was the first thing you saw? C sharp. Somebody that we note, this role is not writing the code. It's somebody that will be leading a small agile team, working hands-on with, and they want you to already have experience with C Sharp, Angular, MAUI, Web APIs, and Azure. Okay. So the C Sharp is backend, Angular is frontend, MAUI is writing cross-platform applications. Then Web API is basically C Sharp, what you are using C Sharp to build. So Web API is the .NET part of C Sharp, basically building Web API, which is what we will learn today. And Azure is the environment you use in deploying that backend application that you've written. So they want somebody with this experience. And if you walk through our program, you are going to get this experience. So that's what they are looking for. And after I spoke with her on phone, the offer was 70,000 pounds. Then look at the next image. Hi, Samuel. I hope you're having a good 1 second. Yeah. I hope you are having a good day. I'm working on an exciting new role. Long story short, what they're offering is 80,000 with 10% bonus. They said this is almost remote. Basically, this kind of job to me is a remote job because they said you have to be in their London office one day in a month, which is fully expensed, meaning your flights to London is fully expensed by them. But what they are just asking for is that you need to have the latest tech experience working with .NET, which is what we're pushing, SQL, Terraform, and Azure. SQL is the database part of .NET. We'll get to that today. The .NET is the .NET part of, C Sharp, and Azure is the deployment environment where environment used in deploying this and C Sharp .NET code. Okay, so let me move to the next slide. This is the next slide. This is another group of messages again. Hi, Samuel. I hope you are doing well. Long story short, they are offering 50 to 55K per annum. If you scroll down to the message, you will see SQL, Microsoft SQL Server, C Sharp, .NET. It is there. It is so there's a pattern, and the pattern is C Sharp, and .NET. Look at the next message as well. Senior software developer, £60 to £69 plus package is hybrid 1 to 2 days in their Glasgow office. So this one, when I got on the call with them, you have to be in the Glasgow office twice every week. And also is a C#.NET role. And I have a lot of this. One of the jobs, if I go back, one of the jobs, this first one by this lady, this job offers sponsorship, meaning they will be sponsoring your visa to work with them. The first one, he offers sponsorship to the city in the UK. I think that is called Evacuating in Scotland. That is where they will be sponsoring you to the UK for that role. So this shows me that not just learning and knowing .NET, but spreading the gospel of .NET is the right thing to do. And this is the reason why I chose to speak about .NET. So the next screen I'm going to go now is to say, let's write some code. So, but before I talk about let's write some code, I need to then step down my high horse and connect with you because I believe a lot of you that are here, you also have the same experience I had in the past because I'm trying as much as possible not to scare you with the things I already know so that you don't say, it's because someone already know this stuff. That's the reason why it's having this offer. But I want you to understand that you too can also get this. And for you to understand that, let me spend 2 minutes, hopefully 2 minutes, to tell you my story, my journey. My journey started where I wanted to study electrical engineering, but for some crazy reasons, the school I applied for I think I applied for Delta State University in Abraka. I could not get that role. What I got instead was what's this called? Was zoology. That was what I was I was offered to study. So I said, nope, nope, I'm not studying zoology. I must study electrical engineering because my dad loves that role, electrical engineering. There are two roles my dad loves. He loves mechanical engineering, which my other brother, God bless his soul, is late. He was one who went through the mechanical engineering line because my dad is a mechanical engineering graduate, while me was for electrical engineering because as at then, those were the two roles that if you have those jobs, you can quickly work with in Esclavos and the rest or at least in construction companies because my dad worked with the first company that ships tractors from from diaspora to Nigeria to in building roads and other infrastructures in Nigeria. So those two jobs, mechanical and electrical, were the killer, were the bombed as at then. So I could not get the role because I was asked to study zoology after JAM. So I ignored. The next year, I then, no, I think after a few months, I heard that Ibori created 3 schools, Delta State of Ghana, Delta State Polytechnic, Delta State of Ozoro. So I applied for Ozoro for the same for the same electrical engineering. I did not scale through as well, but I was told that okay, no, I think I it's been a while because whatever I'm saying is around 2000 and it's around 2004. 2000, no, sorry, 2003. So I may miss some of this information around because it's been a long time. So I then moved to tried Delta State Polytechnic Otefe that okay, if Ozoro is not offering me computer electrical engineering because they don't have electrical engineering, I will try Ogara. So that's why I went to Delta State Polytechnic Ogara to study electrical engineering. I got there, they looked at my result, they said that I do not have some courses in my A level, and long story short, the best I could do is computer science. I was not happy with it, but I had no choice because I've already lost the last year. I didn't gain admission because of zoology. But and most of the people who were my mates, they were already moving to school, so I joined them. And I believe whatever I'm saying is common. Most the story that many of us on this call will experience in Nigeria. Okay, so I got to the school. I studied for 4 years. I graduated from the school, and after I graduated, the next thing I did was I was so excited that I'm going to get a job because I know how to code. But yeah, we write some code here and there, and I was confident that yes, I'm going to become a software developer. The first year passed after graduation. I think after graduation was my service. Service. I basically went to teach in a secondary school in a village in Ebonyi State. So there was a village in Ebonyi State, a very big village in Ebonyi State where there were no actually literally no power there. But long story short was that after my service year, I was excited I was going to get a job. Guess what? I did not get a job. Then um, I waited, no job, waited, no job, waited, no job. But there's a part of my story I missed. And the part I missed is that before my service year, immediately after I graduated, I actually got a job as a software developer in January 4th, 2010. But it spanned and it ended when I started my service. So after my service, I didn't get a job. I started traveling to different states. I traveled to Enugu State to look for a job. Nothing happened. I traveled to Port Harcourt. I did a little bit of, here and there. Long story short, nothing happened. I traveled to Aba in Abia State to learn networking, to learn other things to see if that's going to give me an opportunity. But guess what? Like most of you too, who actually put in those efforts, nothing still came. So I then moved to Benin to say, I think about 3 years after I graduated as passed, and some of the people who used to know that I write code in school those days, they were graduating to be to meet me, and I felt a little bit, comfortable. So I went to Uniben to study postgraduate diploma, PGD. I was there for a while. Everything was seeming so slow. Then I moved with the school fees, accommodation, everything I paid. I just abandoned everything and I moved to Ilorin to study the same postgraduate for computer science because somebody told me Ilorin program is quite fast, University of Ilorin. I went to University of Ilorin to study the same postgraduate diploma. Guess what? What they taught me in University of Ilorin for postgraduate is exactly what they taught me in HND1. Sorry, what am I saying? What they taught me in ND1 was what they were teaching me in PGD. And I just knew that this was a waste of my money. And at that moment, I lost hope. At that moment, I lost hope. I was like, I think, do you know what? I will just settle down in a lorry and just see where the world takes me, or maybe I will go look for somebody that I will use the person's connection to get a job in the ministry or whatever. At that moment, I was not too sure what I would do with my life. Then I got a call from somebody who said the same person I worked with in 2010 before I went for service. He called me. He said, "Hello, Samuel. I know you are writing code, though, but you are not really there yet. But let's do an experiment." He said he asked somebody in Chevron who resigned to be the software engineering manager of Jumia when Jumia first came. He said it was a lady. She resigned from Chevron to be that software engineering manager in Jumia. The lady came, I think she's a Nigerian, but she kind of grew up in the US. So she has some profile. So she became the software engineering manager in Jumia, and they needed somebody for that role in Chevron. He said, I know you are good in what you do, but these guys you don't use the technology they use, but please go. I went there, I spoke with them. The reality is that I did not pass the interview because I'm not really there yet. But there was somebody there that actually just liked me, which the person is the current software development manager now in Chevron. He just liked me for no reason. Not like he knew me for anywhere. We are from the same tribe, but he just liked me and he said, "Do you know what? Let's just give this guy a try. I would personally push him for 1 month. If he's not stepping up after 1 month, then we'll have to let him go." That was how I got my first breakthrough. That was how I got my first job in Chevron. And that was how I got to realize that sometimes, irrespective of how far you've gone to learn things, because they asked me something in that interview that keep getting my head today, and that's one of the reasons why I'm having this conversation with you. What they told me in that interview is that, I know, Sam, I know you can code, but are you in Lagos? Have you ever worked with a company in Lagos? I said I have worked with a company in Warri. They said, no. Do they write code in Warri? What kind of code do they write in Warri? Do you write good code in Lagos? You get me? So I got to realize something, that most environments, the same story I got from someone in Canada, also the same story in the UK, where they will ask, do you have a UK working experience? Do you have a Canadian working experience? In Nigeria, that also happens. If you come from another state, they will ask, do you have a Lagos working experience? If you do, fine. If you don't, they'll say, keep you aside first. Speak with other people if they don't have any better candidate before they come back to you. So if you are not in Lagos, you get a job from outside Lagos. Consider yourself that you are a great guy. You achieved a lot. So they also asked me that question. I said no. Then they said they will get back to me. Before that person stood up to say, he just like me. He knows that Samuel write code, but Samuel does not write their code. But I will teach Samuel, if the way Samuel knows what he knows, if he can know .NET that way, then I know he's going to be a great guy. So that was how my .NET journey started. When I started working with the company, Microsoft came. Microsoft trained all the engineers in the company, and that was when I started becoming very solid in .NET. So what I'm trying to do now is to the experience I had in all this in that company and other companies. I want to let you help you have that experience so that you will not be that person that they will say that, do you have a Lagos experience? Do you have a UK experience? Because we will not just give you teach you, we will also give you we'll also give you a sandbox environment to work with us and have that have that experience, and you can quote us, and we will back you up to say yes, this person worked for us, and this person have that experiment. So I worked with Chevron. Within the first year, I got 3 awards in Chevron. And I worked with Chevron for 2 years before I got a call by a fintech company to say, hello, Samuel, we heard about you. Somebody said the good things about you. We are building fintech software and we want you to come and be the deputy manager of a new department they created for that company. I resigned from Chevron. I went to the company. I worked with them. And within a year, we achieved the first mobile application that was developed in that company. The mobile application that we designed, that I actually designed, is a mobile application that then back in the days, when they see issue check to somebody, with the mobile application that I designed, you don't need to visit the bank. All you need to do is to take a snapshot of your check and upload it to the backend C#.NET backend API, and the API knows what to do with that check. And you, the user, the value of that check will be credited in your account in less than 24 hours. That thing I built featured me on Channels TV. So if you go to maybe I should just stop sharing this a bit. Let me see. I think I have my browser open. Great. So if you go to Google and you Google iTeller 24 hours, hopefully the first Google result this brings out is actually me. Okay, this is the application I built. You can see it here on YouTube. It was pushed by Channels TV. You can see this is it. If I go ahead and I don't want to open YouTube. Basically, I don't want to open it because of these ads. So if I go ahead and just skip, and this is Channels TV, and if I keep scanning all and all, you see where I built the software with CBN, and this is me in 2016, where I built this software. You can see that's my name. This is Channels TV, and this was about I think 7 years ago. So that was how basically the shift of my career started after I built this. When a company saw this, the MD then of a company called a logistics company called GMT Nigeria Limited. That company is also a multinational company because they are in Nigeria, they're also in the Philippines and in other countries. The MD gave me a call, asked me to come work for their company to come transform their tech. I went there, did some stuff there. While I was there, I also challenged the country director of Andela. If some of you heard of Andela then, when Andela first came to Nigeria, I told them that I have the resources to change the life of their business. And then I got a job in Andela. And after when Andela left Nigeria and all, I then got a job in a commercial bank where I'm doing crazy, crazy, crazy wonders till today. And that's the reason why I'm confidently telling you that somebody who has grown from a senior to a lead developer is earning this. Note, I said 2M because I don't want to scare you, but the reality is that a lead developer in that environment or an engineering manager in the commercial bank that I work will actually earns more than this. Okay, I just want to take things one step at a time. So this is kind of my story. So my story is similar to you guys. You graduated, there's no direction, and it's not your fault. It's not your parents' fault. And unfortunately, I don't know if I should say it's the government fault because they too are not really aware of what they need to do. And whatever you and I faced then is the same thing that is also faced across the country where kids that graduated, they have no direction. There's nothing that help them to say, this is exactly what the industry requires. And this is how to get that skill. Also, this is how to get that experience. None of them say it, but as we go along, we will let you know how that works. So, with all that said, who's excited to jump into writing of code? Because I guess I've been speaking a lot and I need to shut up and write some code. So, if you know you're excited to see some codes, let me know. Just you can drop some shots, spam the chat, and you can just say that Samuel, shut up, you'll be talking too much. Please, let's see some codes. Okay, so I will stop sharing for a second, or rather, before that, uh, if you look at my slide, these are the tools I use in writing C#.NET backend code because before I start writing codes, you need to know what tool you need to use in writing codes. Okay, so you can use VS Code or you can use Visual Studio. I use VS Code for a few, but I switched to Visual Studio. So I only use VS Code if I'm writing front-end technology like React, some HTML code, some JavaScript, and the rest. But if I'm writing .NET backend, I basically go and use what Microsoft built for .NET backend, which is Visual Studio. So you can download, if you want to code with me, or if you want to code in the future, you can download, you can go to Google and say download Visual Studio community version. It is free. It is free and it is free. You can download it to your machine, okay, and that is the environment you use to write C#.NET codes. And now I have AI here using GitHub Copilot. So I added this here for you to understand that before now, we used to say writing code is not easy, writing code is hard. You need to do this, you need to do that, you need to cram code, many, many things. And yes, somewhat way you are correct. But since 2024, okay, coding is no longer difficult because you can back your coding with AI, and AI makes you write code very easy. Okay, and that's the reason why I added GitHub Copilot. So GitHub Copilot is what I use. It's the AI companion I use in writing code. So it's like I'm a pilot of the plane. Then I have a copilot, which is an AI that supports me while I'm writing my codes. So in 2024, GitHub Copilot was a paid service. You pay about $10 per month to use it. And I was doing that, but since 2025, GitHub announced and said that the Copilot is now free. So tada, you know, you can now write code and use AI together for free. Visual Studio community version is free and a GitHub Copilot is free. All you have to do is just go ahead and register on GitHub and come back to your Visual Studio interface to enter the username and password, and automatically you have free access to using AI to code. So I will go to Visual Studio and show you how Visual Studio works. So I will open Visual Studio and I will switch my screen to my Visual Studio screen. It's still loading. When it's up, I will let you know. Or while it's loading, I will just go to the browser. You can see, you can go to Google and say, yeah, Google here and say download. Sorry, that's too many download. Download Visual Studio and sorry, community 2022. So that's the latest one. You can see it's free. So you are just moving here to download. Okay. Let's move here. You can see the download button. If you hit on this, it will download the Visual Studio software to your machine for free. Okay. So you may want to do that now, or if your network is not too stable, you may want to do that later. So I would I would switch now my screen to the Visual Studio screen I tried opening, and I have that here. So when you open Visual Studio, I have been writing some existing, blah blah blah. Yeah, that's why you see all the existing project, but basically it's going to be blank. So, like I said, I want to start writing some code. So the first thing I will do, I will click on the create new project, because in Visual Studio, everything you do, you create it as a project. Okay, so I'll click on create new project, and you will see the template that Visual Studio has for you to create a new project, where you can use this to quickly and easily spin up a .NET backend application. But before I go ahead with this, I need to let you know that backend, or you can use Visual Studio, or you can use C#.NET to build both backend and front end application. However, I recommend using React to create a front end application, but you can use Visual Studio for both backend and front end. So, like I told you before now, backend is the engine, while front end is the design, the look and feel. So for backend, if you want to build a .NET backend application that would eventually be connected to a front end application that a user can interact, then the type of project template you would use for backend application is ASP.NET Core Web APIs, because APIs is known. API means application programming interface. It is what creates a bridge between your front end and the logic in your backend. So you can create an API project, write your code in the API project, and that API project can be called by a front end application. Okay. So if you want to write a backend API, backend application, you go open Visual Studio, create a new project, select the ASP.NET Core Web API project. Okay, you I'll you may not see it here, because in mine I've used it before. That's why it is a recent project. So you will actually see it here. So let's go here to look for it. Okay, you will see a razor page. Please, this is not it. This is used for building front ends using .NET. So this is it here, ASP.NET Core Web API, okay, which is the same as this. So it is this I clicked and I got this. So I'll go ahead and click this, not this. Ensure that you are seeing a C# symbol here, because if I scroll further, you would see VB, I think. Yeah, if I scroll further, you see VB. Okay, so please, it is not VB, it is C#, because environment companies no longer uses VB, or they are mainly migrating from VB to C#. So I'm selecting this, I'm clicking on the next, and you now need a name for your project and name for your solution. So let's look for a name. What is a project name, and what is the solution name? Okay, and what is this location? Location is where on my PC I want this project to be stored. I already have a folder in my C drive, in my Solanix project folder that I manually created, that I store all the projects I create. So that's the location. What is now the project name? Project name, project name, or project. In fact, the project name is the name of the project you create. Let me rephrase that. A project, man, sometimes this can be quite crazy. A project name is the name of the project you create, while the project itself that you create is a kind of we call it a bunch of code that does a particular thing, or is a project, is a package that you have wrapped to have some set of code that you want to do a particular thing. Okay, so that's what a project is. Then a solution is more like a room where you can keep those packages, those many boxes. So you can have a single box. That box will contain some stuff in it, okay? Why? And that box can be your project. Why? You can have a room where you can stack multiple boxes. Multiple similar boxes can be grouped together in a room. So that room that you group them together is what the solution is. So a solution contains multiple projects. And in fact, to build a very good scalable project, you must have a solution that contains multiple projects. Okay, but in the course of this demo, because of time, this is already 7 p.m., which means I have less than 1 hour to go. That means I'm going to just create a project with a solution with a single project. If we have time, then I would try to do that. But I think there's a lot of stuff I want to show you, and I doubt if we're going to have that time. But let me see what I can do because sometimes I talk too much, you know. So let's see how it goes. So let's look for something to do. I want to do something similar to what we did on. Let me switch to another screen. I want to do something similar to where is that? Something similar to this. Something similar to this. Okay, what I mean this is that you came to Solanix website, you saw this join our free masterclass for those who came through the home page, while the rest of you got a link to straight to a particular page where you registered. So if I click on this button, it takes us to the page where you registered, right? You came here, you saw this form, you filled this form, you submitted this form. This form went to the API. Okay, this form went to the API, or rather, this form is not going anywhere. What this form does behind the scene is that it took the entire information you entered here, it took everything and it pushed it to the API, and this API got your information, right? And it did stuff with your information. What is the stuff? One, it kept record of those who are to attend this meeting, and also it sent you guys an email to notify you that hey, you applied and we received it, and out of everyone you are selected. Okay, so we have confirmed your application. It also it also later sent you guys email of the meeting invite. That was what the API did. The only job of this interface, which is this is the front-end development. The only job of this is to look good and direct the customer to where to collect information. Why the API is the one that does stuff with the information that this one has collected. So I want us to build something that looks similar like this. Note, please, we will not be building this front-end interface. We will only be building the API that would accept this information and process it, because that is what backend engineering is. Okay. So I'm going to create a project called, um, let me call it let me call it training. Yes, I'm going to create a project called training. To attend that training, you have to register, okay, for the training. So let's do that. So I'm going to switch this to the Visual Studio interface. So we'll call this project training. So note, I intentionally did not prepare a watch my words. I intentionally did not prepare a project for us to design, and it was intentional because I don't want to sound like other Udemy or Coursera courses you can just go and buy where somebody has already planned everything out. You go through it, it is boring. No, I want to engage you like the way the real world is, the way you will be engaged when you work in a company where it is a conversation. That's why it is on this call now I am deciding what to design. I won't follow the route. I don't want to follow the route of other instructors that just say, let's do a to-do app because they've already planned it. No, I want something you can relate with. That's why I'm discussing this with you, and I'm deciding now, or maybe agreeing, but hey, I'm the one speaking, so I choose to use the word decide. I'm deciding to go with something you're already familiar with. So, like I said, I'm going to call this training. Yeah, training. That's the name of the project. Note, whatever name you name a project, the solution also bears that name. Okay? But in a solution, like I told you, a solution it holds multiple projects. So that is one thing we need to consider, which I previously said. The second thing is that this is an API project. So what I want to do is that I want to call the solution training, which is what this is about. Okay. But I want to call this project training something, because all solution is divided, like I told you, it had multiple boxes. Okay. So I want to call this one, because like I told you, we are building an API, a C#.NET backend web API. Okay. I would call it training.api. All right. I don't want to say training API. I want to call it training.api. So dot is like putting a space in between the training and API. In the .NET world, it is preferably you use dot rather than you use space when you are naming something. Okay, we call that what is something we call a namespace. Namespace is how you identify a group, a line of code, or you identify a project, or you identify something within the .NET world. It is called a namespace. So I want to give you this one, the namespace of training.api. Why the solution itself? You can see it automatically came here, but I want the solution itself to be training. So you will see that this will create a solution and it will create a project on top of the solution. The project will be called training.api, while the solution itself will be training. So in that solution, we can create other things about training. We can create a training.infrastructure, a training.services, a training dot whatever. We can do that. But for now, we are building an API. We can even do a training.web where we would have the web interface, which when I say web, I mean the front end that you saw that has those forms. You can do a training.web, to design, to create a project that will design the front end. But for now, this is a backend training course, so we focus on the training.api. I hope I have explained what this screen is, and let me know if you are cool so that I can move forward. But if you have questions about this screen, please pop them to the chat. Let me answer them quickly. So, James, I saw your message. Please, what are boxes? So box means like a carton of something now. Imagine a sugar, imagine sugar. Okay, if you buy a box of sugar or is sugar to, let me see. Imagine if somebody send you a gift. He's going to wrap the big gift in a ball, in a box, right? So um imagine somebody sent you a gift. That gift is wrapped in a box, right? So that box itself is a it can be like a project. The entire thing that was wrapped in that box can be the entire project. Okay. Then maybe because you are a big man, a big boy, you know, you can decide to, you may have other people that send you gifts. So you can have a room where you keep all those gifts. So you can name that room gift or gift room. You get me? You can name that room gift room or gift. Why each of the gift will then have gift dot maybe the person who sent you the gift. If maybe I Samuel sent you the gift, you can now have gift dot Samuel. If somebody else sent you that gift, you say gift dot that. So it's like the base name is the gift. Why each of those gifts that were sent to you that were wrapped in boxes would now have a unique identifier separated by a dot. So when I use the word boxes, it's not like it's a big tech terminology. No, it's just I'm just looking for something literal that you would understand to use in representing it. Okay, it's like the way you have Samsung. Samsung is a product. You get me? In Samsung, you have different brands. Samsung dot A20, Samsung dot A54, Samsung dot whatever. Okay, those are the different brands, or those are the different stuff within it. Okay, so I can see Ugo said let's roll. All right, so let's move to the next screen. So if I click on next, it's going to take me to the framework I would use in building this application. So C Sharp is a programming language. However, that programming language runs on a framework. The framework is called .NET. So what is this .NET or what is this .NET framework? .NET framework is like a bunch of libraries and codes that Microsoft themselves they've built upon so that you do not have reason to write too much code. For instance, let me give something. Let's say you want to calculate the median of something, okay? Or let's say that you want to sort a list of age. You want to sort a list of numbers by ascending order, or a list of ages, people's age by ascending order, or you want to sort a list by the people's age by ascending order or descending order. You do not need to write the sort code because that code for sorting has already been written and packaged in this .NET framework, which is this framework. So all you have to do is to use C Sharp to leverage on that framework to use what the framework has written. Note, no one is stopping you from writing your implementation yourself. But why do you want to reinvent the wheel when the wheel is already available and the wheel is spinning? So that wheel is actually the framework, okay? So for now, we won't be doing authentication because this is going to be like a whole conversation for another day. So I'm going to skip this. Then configure HTTPS. So when you are building your application, you need to ensure that the application runs on a secure transfer protocol. HTTPS means that whatever you are doing needs to run on a secure environment. If I go back to our website to explain that HTTPS for those who do not know, so if I go back to our websites, you will see that we are running on HTTPS here. What that means is that our website is secured, basically. So if I click on this, you'll see that they tell you that this website is secured. So to build a secure application where people will feel very comfortable to post their information or even make payments, your website must be secured. So if you are building any software or application or a web API, by default, please just ensure that you are configuring it for HTTPS and ensure that it is secured. So just do that. It's a basic rule. Just do that. Do not undo it. Just do it. Okay. Enable Docker container support. We'll get to this one, way in the future. This is for an advanced learning called Docker and Kubernetes. It's for container support. So let's keep this up for now. Then open API support. Yes, let's leave it active, and I'll show you the reason why we're leaving it active. Use controllers. Some people use, some people do not use. A lot of developers who are learning .NET of late, they choose not to be using controllers. And I'm choosing to use controllers because it helps us group our codes. Okay. And I'll show you the grouping while I'm using controllers. Okay. For now, we are not doing any deployment, so I won't be listing .NET Aspire orchestration. So basically, we are setting the default settings of this, okay? But just so that you just explain what some of them they are. I think I also click on this information button, can I, to see what it is talking about? Unfortunately, no. Okay, yeah, it is. Just hold your mouse pointer on it, and you'll see what each of them what they mean. So I'm going to click on the create button, and this is going to use the .NET framework. No, sorry, it's going to use Visual Studio is going to use the template I selected and all the settings I've given to it to build our first web API. So let's give it a few seconds to complete this project creation process. So what is happening? I'll quickly pop into the chat and see if there's any new. Okay. Yes, James, the quick answer to what you said is yes. It's more than that, but the quick answer is yes. It just basically project name is just call it an identifier of whatever you want to do now is an identifier. Okay, while the solution is the grouping of everything you've identified. So I just use boxes because boxes are what I use to wrap a lot of things together. Whatever the boxes are, that box needs a name. Whoever sent that box to you must write a name, should write a name on that box, else the person would not really understand. Okay, so a new question is what's the difference between .NET and .NET Core? So before now, there's the .NET, and that runs on what we call .NET framework. Okay, and now there's now .NET Core. So the reality now is that my advice is that don't bother about .NET or .NET framework because those are things of the past. Focus on .NET Core. Okay, just focus on using .NET Core. But the difference of it is that the .NET or the .NET framework, which is the previous .NET, they only run on Windows environments. But .NET Core runs on both Windows, Mac, Linux, and any environment at all, and it works. .NET Core is also way, way, way faster than .NET. And .NET Core and the new latest C# programming language is written for .NET Core and is a way better and simpler code. Like I said, it is faster. It runs on multiple operating systems. It runs on multiple environments. It enables Docker support quickly. So it is just forget .NET and start using .NET Core. So that's just the way I'm going to put it. Okay, so I have the project completely loaded and I'm going to switch back to it. So this is the project that was created. Okay, so this is just some simple stuff to, if you want to build your app, read this, read this, read this. But hey, you have me, so you don't need to really bother about this. So I'm going to close this, and you're going to have a blank screen. You're going to have a blank screen. 1 second. Oh, I want to be sure that you guys are seeing what I'm saying. Okay. So this is how the initial environment is going to look like. But all I'll just ask you to do is, first, if you don't have, you need to come to here to see GitHub Code Pilot. Click on it and go ahead and when you click on it, it will ask you to enter your existing Copilot credentials or create a new GitHub account. So you're going to click on create a new GitHub account, use your email to create it, go back to your email, get the authorization code, approve everything, then it gets the account. Come back here to enter the account and click on sign in. Then the next screen will then become like this. Okay. So this is like the AI is active and is telling me it's ready to work with me to ensure there's a smooth coding process. So and this is Copilot. It's like the way you have ChatGPT, basically. So you can ask it a question and anything, and it will let you know. Can help you to write tests, help you to summarize. And if somebody gave you a code that they've been working on for the past 20 years, you can use this Copilot, open the code, and click on summarize your code, explain how this code works, and it's going to explain it to you. Then you can also use it to fix when you have errors, issues on your code, which I use almost every day, which it makes me 10 times more productive than I used to be in the past 3 years. So I use this. Then you can ask itself to write some code to achieve some things for you, and it's going to do that. Okay. So what you need to first think about when you have set up your own Copilot stuff is you need to click on Solution Explorer, because that is where you have all the files within the project or the solution that you can see the solution is called training. It's like the parent folder that has multiple projects in it. This is only one project, which is the API. I can go here and right click and add a new project. Okay, if I need a new project, and a new project, if I go through the process, the new project will now be part of this project. But we don't need to do that now because we already have limited time. I can see I have 27 minutes left in this call, in this program rather. So I asked you to use controllers. That's why you have this controllers folder. And I always advise for now, since you are starting, always ask you to use controllers so you help you group your code. Okay. So I will go ahead and do this. I want to remove this controller. Okay. Then we will add our controller and I will use that to explain what a controller is to you. I don't want you to see existing code that will then be confusing. I'm also going to, excuse me. I'll also go ahead and I'll remove this weather forecast too. I will remove this. This is actually using for testing of your APIs, but I think it's irrelevant because we're asked you to use Open API. We can test our APIs using Open API. So I'm also going to remove this. So now we are left with properties. What is here in properties is launch settings. Launch settings is basically this button. If you click on this button, it has multiple profiles of how you want to run your code, because you need to test your code, how you want to run it to test it. If you look at all, if I click on here, you will see all these. All these are different launch settings. But my advice to anyone is that just focus on using HTTPS, okay? And don't bother much about HTTP. Because HTTP is unsafe, HTTPS is safe. Before now, we use IIS, Internet Information Server, or IIS Express to run it. But since .NET Core came in, like the person who asked of the difference between .NET and .NET Core, IIS runs on only Windows environment. But this one you are seeing here runs on what it uses a web server called it uses a web server called Kestrel. So to run a web API, you have to run it on a web server. You need a web server to run a web API. IIS Express is a minified version of a web server called Internet Information Service. Okay, so Visual Studio has a minified one that it will spin up the server first. before it will spin up your code, deploy your code to the server and run your code. That is IIS Express. But this was relevant when we're using Windows. Okay. But to me, it's not relevant when we're using using .NET Core. It was relevant in .NET Framework or .NET, but not longer relevant in .NET because I don't use this. I just focus on HTTPS, which uses Kestrel. Kestrel is a very, very damn lightweight server that spins up in less than fractions of a second. So all this startup or running profile you are seeing, they are all the launch settings that you see here. So if I open this file, which you don't really need to pay much attention to, you will see the launch profiles. You see the one running on HTTP. That is going to run on this web server called HTTP localhost and this port. You would see HTTPS. You can see it's going to run on HTTP local, HTTPS secured HTTP on 7108. Okay. Then you have the HTTP one too that is running here. So because I already have HTTP and HTTP running on this HTTPS port, then most I don't bother about this. So I'll just take this HTTP profile off for those who know what they're doing. Like I told you, IIS is for Windows. So you don't need to do what I'm doing, but it's just a force of habit that I do. I also take off IIS off. I don't need it. Then this entire thing here too, I take them off. So I only leave a single profile that has HTTPS. And I ensure that any curly braces that started this is anyone that started also exists as what is ending it. Let me take this one to off. Okay, no, I think that one is so. This one started, this one ended. This started, this is here, this one is here, and this last one here is also here. And because we are running this on our machine, it's going to run on development environment. If I run it, it's going to launch my browser. That's why I have two. It's going to also launch it on an environment called Swagger. We'll get to that. So when we're setting up the project, I selected enable open API support. So open API uses a .NET package or library called Swagger. We'll get to that. And Swagger is used for documenting your API because if you don't document your API, then whoever front-end engineer, whatever the front-end, whoever you're building your API for would not even know, one, if your API exists, and two, how to access your APIs. Okay. So this is just what I do, but you don't have to do what I did. I just do this to help myself clean it up so that if I click on this, I have only one profile, okay, which is the HTTPS. And behind the scene, it runs both HTTPS and HTTP. So that's good for me. So that is for about that, explaining what that file does. The next thing is the app settings. App settings, by default, what app settings does is that it helps you to, if you have any kind of configuration you want your software to have, this is where you set it up. Okay. For instance, if you are deploying your software to a live environment, the configuration you have in your live environment is different from the configuration you have in your local machine, even on any other environment. On the testing QA environment, configuration you have there will be different. So it is the app settings that you put in this configuration. Okay. So normally when you write code, it is not a good idea to do something we call hard coding, meaning you type something that does not change, a constant. Most times, if you have a constant value is a value that does not change. Please bring them to the configuration, okay, not in your code. So, for instance, if I say, and while we move on, we'll get to understand where we need configuration and how we bring them in, okay? One of the instances, like there's something called a database in software development. And a database is where if you collect information from somewhere, you have to store that information somewhere so that you don't lose it. You store that information in a database. So to be able to write a database code here, you must specify a database connection string. You can see a sample of it. Copilot is telling me that, hey, Samuel, do you want to write a connection string now? If I say yes, it's going to do all this and write this for me, but I don't want to do that now. So if you are connecting to a database or you are sending an email to an email server, all those settings, those configurations, you have to put them here. That is what this file is for. Then the last but not the least is the program.cs file. This file is what tells your software how to start. Okay. So before your code starts, this file must ensure that everything is where it's supposed to be before it starts. Okay. What's the first thing? add controllers. Because we are using controllers, that's why we have this add controller. Like I tell you, I will get to what controller is. Then because we also enabled open API support, that is why it has this and this and also this. Okay, so we'll get to that when we I show you what we call open API support, and that is used for API documentation that I mentioned. Because if you create an API, you don't create the documentation, nobody will know that your API exists, and nobody will see the documentation, and no front-end engineer would know how to connect and push data to your APIs. So this one for API support, and this is what helps that to be visible. Okay, so I will run this program, removing this, and I will run the program again, bringing it back, so you see the difference between both. So the next thing here is that your application is building. You need it so that your application can be sure that there are no errors in your code. And then, excuse me. So because we say that we want this to be HTTP, so what this is saying is that if the user chooses to use the HTTP, it goes to HTTP environment, it's telling your code to please redirect the user of your software to the HTTPS version of your code. Remember that we have both HTTP and HTTPS version here. So if the user goes to the unsecured version, okay, this code help you to push the user to the secured version. That's what it does. This is configured here if you want to set up authorization and want to prevent unauthorized users from accessing our APIs. And this one will come to this one later in the future. So if you say you should add controllers, you need to also set map controllers. And this is what builds the application to be sure that your application is working. And this is what starts your application to ensure that your application is running. And note, I'm using the word application now. Application means your project or your entire, no, not your solution, your project or the software you have built. That is what I'm referring to as application. Because in the software engineers world, we no longer call it that we don't say we are building softwares, we say we are building applications. You get me? That's why even the word API, backend API, the API itself means application programming interface. Okay, so if I run this application, nothing special is going to happen now because I deleted the existing controllers. Or maybe I should even bring it back. But I think it's fine, I deleted it, then we'll create our own. So what is a controller? A controller is a C#.NET class file or a file that helps you to create what we call routing in your APIs. What are routes? What are routing in your APIs? Routing is like it's an address on your API that somebody can access, and that address will return a resource back to the person. For instance, now, if I go back to my website or to Solanix website, you would see that there's a route called solanix.ng/freecnet.html. If I go to home, you see that there's a route called just solanix.ng. If you go to about, there's a route to about. If you go to whatever, there's a route to that. This is for the front end. There's also the route, is a path, is an address. There's also that in the back end. So I don't need to click on any button here. If I want to go to contact us page, I can just simply, if I know the route, I can just type on it here. Okay, and press enter, and it goes there without clicking on a button. That is what a route is. It's an address, it's a location, a resource that exists on your API. Okay, and you create those routes using controllers. You create those routes using controllers. Is my screen sharing paused? Can you guys see my screen? Okay, I think I'm back now. So now back to Visual Studio, I'm going to create a controller. So because you are using .NET follows some things called a convention. A convention is a way of doing things. It's like how am I going to put it now? It's like the way the banking sector works. If you don't graduate from a school or you did not serve, then you can't get a job. That's the convention. Okay. And for a convention to be changed, you need a lot of people to come in, sit down, and agree that that convention must be changed and the impact of changing that convention, okay, before you go ahead and do that. So to create a controller, there's a convention you must follow. If you don't follow that, it's not going to work. The same way, if you don't have those requirements, you can't get a job in the Nigerian banking sector. So the convention for adding a controller is to ensure that whatever you add needs to end with the word controller. Okay, not controllers in plural, but controller. Okay, now this is a training API. What we say we want to do, we want to be able to accept registration for the training. So I'm going to create a registration controller. Okay, so let me right click on, to do that, I will right click on this and go to add, go to controller. Okay, that will give you the controller dialog box. So remember, we said we are building a web API. Always remember that, because there's this controller and there's this. Please, we are not building MVC, we are building API. So always pick API controller. And in this case, we pick an empty one to write this code from scratch. So now, this is the API empty controller. Let's give this controller a name. So I'm going to call this registration. Okay, controller. You can see that it has a convention. It must end with controller. Okay, and .cs. CS means C sharp. VB ends with .vb. So all files you are creating, except the settings configuration file, you must end them with .cs. Okay, or most of it. So I'm going to add a controller, and because I'm using .NET, it does not, it helps me so that I do not have to write my controller from scratch. Okay, it gives me some template to work with. So I'm going to start like this. And if I am writing code in the latest technology, which is .NET 8, um, or before I get there, let me explain what is on this page. The first thing you see is your using statement and it's having some stuff. So this using means that there are some .NET framework implementation that Microsoft has done in the past that I no longer need to do that. For instance, API controller you are seeing here, routes, those things I explained. It's a framework thing that they've done. Samuel do not need to write the code. You don't need to write the code. This controller I'm creating now is inheriting from an existing controller. I don't need to care what this existing controller does. Automatically, once I say registration controller and I inherit from this controller, automatically it works as a controller, basically. Because I don't need to write all this code, uh, this code then exists somewhere rather, okay? And that place is inside of Microsoft ASP.NET Core MVC, okay? So because it exists there, that's why you have this using statement. So you don't need to bother about it because I have this automatically, this brought this on here, okay? So, and this is the namespace. Namespace, like I told you, is better to say solution dot project dot whatever you are doing. In this case, now it is controller. So namespace is usually a folder, part to a folder. You can see it solution, which is training dot project API dot controller. Okay. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So, but in .NET 8, you don't write it with all these braces. You just put a semicolon at the end there and you are good. That cleans up your file better. And this is the route. Route shows that it's telling us that when we run this application, this controller needs to be in an address of the solution, the host or the server slash API slash the name of this controller, in this case now registration. But now we want to do some stuff, okay, under the registration. So on the registration part, now I want to be able to do different things. Okay, one of them is, let's say we want to do something like sign up, okay, or register. So you can see that there's something that is appearing on my screen. It's Copilot helping me to write codes. But let me just go ahead and manually write it. So an API has four basic route methods. We call it methods. Okay, there is the get, there is the get, there is the post, there is the get, there is the post, there is the put, and there is the delete. All of them is an HTTP method. What is a get? What is a post? What is a put? What is a delete? A get is used whenever you are fetching information from an API. For instance, if you say, you know what, I want to see all the sales data of this month. I want a report. You usually make and create an API route or an API endpoint, and you make it a get endpoint, okay, or make it a get route. If you are pushing data to the server, like the way you did in the sign up form you filled, you do that on post. Okay. If let's say you you are filling a form, in that form you entered your name is now incorrect, and you think you would love to go ahead and update it or change it or edit it, okay, then you should use put. If you want to delete the record from an API, then you use delete. So to go back again, get is used to for fetching of data, post is used to send data, to submit data, in this case of registration or sign up. Put is used to update existing data, and delete is used to remove existing data. Okay. So now what do we want to do? We want to create a sign up route for someone to be able to sign up on using this endpoint, okay? Using this API. So which one do you think we should use for sign up? Because what sign up does? Sign up collects data and it pushes the data to this API. Can anybody here on this chat tell me what you think we should use out of this four methods? So keep it coming. I want to see what you think we should use. So I'm seeing post, post, get and post, post. Come on, you guys should drop in now. I want to be sure that you'll be hearing me. Okay? Keep it coming, keep it coming, keep it coming. Come on, keep it coming, keep it coming. Great. Can anyone tell me the reason why post? Can anyone tell me why post? Amir, you said you can't see my screen. Okay, I will stop sharing and reshare to be sure that you can see it. Okay. Amir, I will stop sharing and reshare so that you can see my screen. Okay. Amiru, can you see my screen now? Aminu, can you see my screen now? Is there anyone else that has the challenge that can't see my screen? Because I can see that my screen is being shared. Okay. So two people can't see my screen, and when Mimo said, um, um, you know, I hope when Mimo is a she that you can see my screen. Okay. So I think those of you who can't see my screen, I think it's just your connection. You may want to check your connection, okay? And because of time, let me just quickly proceed because we have just barely 15 minutes. Okay, so you are correct. It is post. Post is because you are pushing data to the server. Okay, so it is post. So we go ahead and um, do take a post. Okay, okay. So the next thing is that I want to create an action. An action is called an endpoint. So note, we've said different things now. We've used the word API, we've used the word controller, and now the next one is an action. The action is the exact is it like the end the ending of a URL, meaning the last side. That is the action. So we call it the point of the ending, or if I need to phrase it the way we call it in software engineering, is actually the end point, is the last part of it. Okay, that is the action. So I want to create the end point that if somebody wants to register, or a front-end engineer wants to register on your API, what is we calling that is actually the endpoint. Okay, so and that is created as an action. Okay, so if I want to create it, I will say because I want it to be available to whoever is calling it, then I'll have to mark it as public. All right. Then there's something called a return type. The return type is I action result. It means once you are creating an API, you need to return I action result. That's the type that the API would understand. All right. Then I want to call it sign up. All right. Then I will do this and this. So this open and close brackets is in, we call this a method, a function. In every function, you must open and close a bracket because in this place, that is where you send the parameters to that function. Okay. So this sign up is the endpoint, or this sign up is the action that we take out, that will be displayed to whoever is calling this API to say, send your request to this sign up endpoint. So I'm choosing my word carefully. I'm trying not to use the word endpoint because what is an endpoint? An endpoint is the combination of this word API, okay, slash your controller. In this case now, your an endpoint is API slash registration, okay, slash sign up. That is this endpoint now. All right. So, but now, what data do you want the user to send as a sign up data? So to push that data, we have to create something called a class. A class is a blueprint of an object. An object is something that carries data from one place to the other. Okay, let me repeat. A class is a blueprint of an object. It's how you define an object. For instance, now a class can be a male. Male can be class. Why I am an object of a male. So object is an instance of a class, or is an object of a class. So I am an instance of a male. Okay, that's why I am, and I have things that I identify with that makes me a male. For instance, my name sounds male-ish. My looks, my hair, my physique sound male-ish. So I'll have to create a class so that that class will help us to bring in the data from the front end into the API. So to create that class, I'll create a folder called um, um, so since I have a registration controller, I will create a folder that will hold everything that has to do with this registration. Okay. So here now I'm going to create a folder here. Hmm. I'm going to create a let's see, a folder here, call it services. Okay. So we will handle all the service we're going to create. So within services, I have a registration service, or want the user to perform the registration. So I will name registrations. registrations. I'm putting plural because it's everything that is in registration I want to keep here. All right. So the first thing I want to create now is that class. That class that will hold the data that is coming to the registration. So I'll call the class a um, um, reg. I'll call it sign up. Okay, sign up, sign up request. Because since it is coming into us, into the API, it is a request. If I'm returning a result, if I'm returning a response back, we will call it response. So I want to say, call it sign up request. Okay. Remember .cs, click add. So we create a new class. This is how a class looks like. A class has a namespace and it has the usual public class and the name of the class called sign up request. So what are the things we need for the sign up request? I need the person's name, email, phone number, and maybe a message, okay, for the sign up. So everything I will declare it as a public and the data type and the whatever I'm asking, which is the property. So I will say public, okay, the data type, which is string. Then I will say name, okay. Then I will say get set. I will get back to this. I will do that for email. I will do that for no, not password. I will do that for phone number, and I will also do that for message. So there's a get and there's a set here. In .NET, we call this a getter and a setter. Get means that this class would enable, we allow data to be fetched from, data to be taken or received from this data to be accessed in this name. Set means that you can allow this name to data to be passed into it. So this is called a, but we'll get to this anyway. Let me not really take much of our time on this, right? So one other thing I will need to add to you, which might be new to some of the .NET people who have learned .NET before now, is that if your class is just simply passing data from left to right and right to left, I will advise not to use a class. Okay, I will recommend you use a record instead. So something like this: public record, public record, sign up request, okay, and you will now have this like this, and you will pass the same thing here, the data type and whatever you're passing, which is name, email, phone, and message. So this is actually doing the same thing as this. All right, so I'll take this one off and I have something shorter to use. So I'd rather use this record than a class. And the reason why I choose a record than a class is because if I'm just using it for data purpose to accept requests and return response, I recommend using record because it's way lightweight and it's easy to set up, unlike class. Okay. So that is fine for this. Then I will then take this here, this sign up request. I will go back to this controller and say that the input that is coming from the API, okay, should be a type of sign up request, and I should call it request. Yeah, you can call it sign up request, you can call it input, or you can call it anything. So note, it's saying that, hey, I don't know what a sign up request is. Do you know why? It's the same way this one is. Like I told you before, this and this is coming from this namespace. Now, this is coming from a namespace that is different from this. If you go and look at where we created this sign up request, I created it here. You can look at the namespace is different. Training API, services, and registrations. But we are currently in training API controller. So there's a mismatch in the namespace. That's why it's complaining. To fix that, just click on this and tell it to import this using namespace of the namespace of this, and this is fine. Okay. So now what do we do with this? We can do anything with this. Let's just say let's just display whatever we've accepted as message to the application. So we can just say console dot write line. This is a way to display message to say this is the name, this is the email, this is the phone, and this is the message. Okay. After that, return. Return means that when you are done, you must return something back to the who called you to know whether it is successful or it fails or whatever. So, but successful, you return okay. That is what you use in returning successful. And I can just say, it's return a message saying registration received. Okay, successfully as the response back to whoever made a post to this endpoint. So congratulations, we've created our first simple endpoint that accept data from the front end into our API endpoint. Remember, I said the endpoint is API slash registration slash sign up is the endpoint, right? So congratulations, we have received data and we are returning this success message and we are going to log this data in our application. So to test this application we've designed, this API we've designed, we'll click on this. So when we click on this is going to happen. If we go back to properties, this is going to happen. It's going to hit this launch settings. And this launch setting is going to tell it to launch our browser, load something called Swagger, and open it using this route, this HTTPS route. It will open it there. What is Swagger? Swagger is the open API support we selected when we're creating the project, and it's also this tool here that is being displayed. Okay, this one that is being used to display what we call a documentation of your API. Without Swagger, it will be difficult for somebody who is consuming your API to understand how your API works. So let me click on this one button. So my screen, I'm sharing only one screen. I'll go ahead and share everything so that you can see what is happening now. All right. Oh, so the run button is located here. Okay, now you are seeing continue because it's running. So I will stop it. Let me stop it. The run button is this. You can see this play button. Let's call it the play button. Okay, I think that's better. Let's call it the play button. Can you see that now, James? If yes, please hit that yes. Just tell me yes or drop a like. Great. So if you click on it, it's going to use the launch settings to first open a browser, then it's going to launch Swagger, which is the documentation of the API. You can see it's running it on Swagger, right? So you can see this is our first API that we've created. Is the look at it namespace training.api. This is the controller registration, and this is the endpoint. Okay, and it's telling us that it's this endpoint accepts these four parameters. You can see it as a request body that accept name, email, phone number, and message. So I will go ahead and try it out, and I will say my name is Samuel. My email is let's just say Samuel at Solanix NG. My phone is 08066808808 or whatever. My phone is let's say 08012345678 9 or whatever. And the message is hi, I want to learn.net. Learn C#.net. All right. So I'm going to do something in my API. So this thing is called breakpoint. Breakpoint is how developers or .NET developers, how they used to investigate what is happening when code is running in their API. So if you see my mouse pointer, this is called a breakpoint. Okay. When you move to the right, the left of your screen, the left bar, you start seeing something here. This means that it's somewhere I can actually drop a breakpoint. So if I click on this, it will paint here red. This is a breakpoint. What is a breakpoint? Breakpoint is something that it stops the execution of your application. Okay. So I want when the application runs, when I click on the submit button, it should stop here so we can investigate what we got as this request. All right. So if I click on this button now to submit this data to my endpoint, presumably that this data came from a front-end application like our website, because I have an API endpoint that our website calls that accept all this data actually. Okay. Then if you click on execute, you can see that it has sent the request from Swagger to our code. So if you know your mouse pointer or name, you will see the name that was entered there. You will see the email, you will see the phone, and you will see the message. So if I remove this breakpoint and click on continue, because here change switch to continue because of the breakpoint. If I say continue, and you can see that it is finished, it's done running, and it returns this response back to whoever called this to say registration received successfully. And if we go ahead to look at the application console window where we console logged everything, you can see that we receive the name, we receive the email, we receive the phone, and we receive the message. So congratulations, this is your first, you've successfully written your first API, or you've seen how an API is built in .NET. Okay, so with this, do we have any questions before I move to the next topic? But unfortunately, this is already 8 p.m., so I'm not sure if we still have enough time to move to the next topic, but let me see your questions. Let me see your questions. Okay, so there are no questions. Please, can you share the video for further learning? Yes, the video is being recorded. Just send our WhatsApp message a DM, okay, if you're interested in the video, so I can share it further. So somebody asking for subsequent classes, are we going to be using Zoom? It's quite fast. It seems quite fast paced. When will we get the recording for practice? You understand it seems quite fast paced, and that's why I want to share this with you. So let me go back, switch back to my slide. So this is where we are, and this is what I plan to do. But unfortunately, I find myself rushing, okay, and I'm trying to maintain time because I do not want to waste your time. So let me go back here first and share this, okay. So this training is supposed to be. Let me switch back to my home page. Switch back to the home page and go to registration closed. So let me come in here quickly. Okay, so this is actually the plan for this training, okay, to learn um 1 second. Okay, so the plan for the training is to learn the fundamentals, which is what I've done now, but we were talking about objects in classes, which I've covered here, and also the fundamentals. Then I was about talking about dependency injections and link before I saw that it is 8 p.m. So my plan also is also teach you talk about middlewares. We've talked about documentation, API documentation, which is the Swagger. Then I also plan storing data in SQL Server in a database. I also plan doing that. So there are two things I want to do. One is to do is link. Actually, dependency is link, sorry, and database. Why I'm doing database, that will also take us to dependency injection, right? So that was one thing what I plan for these 2 hours to cover. but I can see that this is already 8 p.m. So I want to just quickly show you guys this because I feel that there are some people that already have planned to drop off. So before you drop off, please just give me 5 minutes of your time for anybody who want to drop off before I proceed. Okay. So let me quickly move to um so I saw a question, which is better to use entity framework or direct access? My advice is please use entity framework because a lot of developers make this mistake to build what they feel comfortable with. But when you are working in an enterprise environment, like my experience, don't focus on what you're comfortable with. Focus on what the industry require because you will resign, you will move on. I've resigned a lot, I've moved on a lot. But that application I built is being managed by somebody. There is a convention and a training and a knowledge expectations. And the expectation is that the next person that is coming would learn entity framework. So that I would know entity framework. So please build your software so that the next engineer can maintain it. Else you will end up being a pain in the butt. Okay. So with that being said, I want to share let me see what I'm currently sharing. I think I'm sharing the slide. Okay, no, I'm not sharing the
Hi
slide. So let me go
Samuel,
back.
there's one question here from you for you that you missed. What's
Okay.
the difference between Visual Studio and Visual Code? And also, how does the Copilot save your code and for how long?
Okay, so Visual Studio is a complete environment. I'm trying not to use too much complex words, but the real word is Integrated Development Environment or IDE that has all the tools and support you need to build a successful .NET application. You can do that with VS Code, but VS Code is a lightweight application. So just imagine this. Imagine writing a letter in MS Word versus writing a letter in Notepad. For those who have used Notepad, okay? Then imagine Notepad to be VS Code and MS Word to be Visual Studio. MS Word gives you the opportunity to use bold and everything, but Notepad is just plain text, okay? Notepad is just VS Code is just plain text, or Notepad is just plain text, and VS Code is something similar to Notepad. Okay, it has a lot of features. You can install a lot of plugins to make it better. But if you are writing .NET, please use Visual Studio. It's easy. You can just see it has a lot of templates I used to spin up this application quickly. If it were to be VS Code, we won't be where we are already. Okay, so that is that to answer that question. So, if there's any other question, please. Then about Copilot, Copilot is not storing your code. I need to understand that. He is learning from your code and other developers in the past, and is using that to quickly support you so that you can write code. For instance, if you look at when I was typing the login of the name, the email, the phone number, the message, I only wrote the console.write line for the name. Copilot told me that since you wrote name, would you want to write email? I just pressed tab and Copilot was writing the rest for me. So that is the reason why I always recommend Copilot. It will predict what you want to do and it will make it easy for you. All right. So let me move to the next tab for those who think they want to drop up because I told you to give me 5 minutes and I've already taken 2 minutes. So in the next 3 minutes, what's next after this training? So I want you guys to understand that there are a lot of things that is going on now in the world. Okay. And in like what I've showed you before about the benefits of learning .NET and also moving into tech, especially with .NET, okay, and what is also happening in the UK. Because the UK is a .NET based, is a .NET zone. The UK is a .NET zone, and in the UK, something is currently happening. And what is that? The Department of Science, Innovation and Technology, DSIT, has currently, as we speak now, they've launched a global talent task force in June 2025, backed by £54 million to attract those in science and tech. Okay, so what does this mean? £54 million is available now through a task force called the Global Talent Task Force. Do you know what they are doing? They are looking for experienced software engineers. They are looking for experienced people in tech. Okay, meaning that if you are currently experienced in tech, okay, especially backed with the technology that is used majorly in the UK, which is .NET, then you can be picked by these guys if you go show your interest. All right. Solanix is also planning to reach out to the Department of Science and Innovation, okay, to be part of the company that is working with them to look for tech talents. We are planning to do that. But even if we do that or not, this is currently ongoing and they are looking for tech talent, especially those that are into software engineering in the UK, which is an environment that is .NET. The requirement of software engineering mostly in the UK is .NET. So the second one now is that there's now overseas funding to look for these guys, not just in the UK but outside of the UK. And who are these guys? It is you. Okay, it is you, it is you, it is everyone on this call. In the UK, you guys are being looked for, and there's a budget of 773 million. You get me, for those in the research and in the innovation part. Tell me, what is research? What is innovation? If you learn a technology now and you build something, you're an innovator. And there's 773 million that has been budgeted to look for people like you. Okay, then for those who want to do academics, which is not me, basically there's 217 million for them. But look at 773 million looking for people like you. Then there's another department of global talent task force looking for people like you with 54 million to attract you to the UK. So what the hell are you waiting for when you have this opportunity now to switch into tech? So how do you now get this happening? That is where we come in as Solanix. So we plan to run a boot camp, you get me, for 6 months, because I can give you whatever I showed you or whatever was listed on the registration page, which I'm going to continue for those that will stay back. Okay, I can give you that. However, we have a structured training program for those who want to continue more than a year. And what do I mean more than a year? You will learn everything step by step for 4 months, and we would pair you with our tech partners both in Nigeria or in the UK, so that you can start gaining industry experience. What does that mean? It means that we will teach you for 4 months. After teaching you for 4 months, we will assign you to a tech company where you will start gaining experience. I'm choosing my word carefully. I don't want to say working. Actually, you start working with them, but it's not working to be paid. You'll be given some stipends for internet and everything because it's remote. But that is not the purpose. The payment is not the purpose. The purpose is for you to gain experience, because when you want to get a job as a software engineer, the first thing they will ask you is that, where have you worked as a software engineer? Have you worked in Lagos before? If you move to the UK, they'll say, do you have a Lagos, UK experience? Solanix wants to give you that working experience. So if they ask you that question, your first response is yes. They'll say, okay, they will go to your CV, they will see working experience, Solanix Nigeria Limited or Solanix UK Limited. They'll be like, wow, young man, you have a UK experience. Then, you know, basically, if you can then pass the interview, the job is yours. Then the third thing we are going to do is to teach you how to brand your profile so that your profile will look something similar to mine. And these people that will teach you is our HR partners. We teach you how to brand your CV and brand your profile. That will happen concurrently within the 4 months and the 2 months. Then once your profile is great, we would upload your profile to our internal database, and we will share this information with tech companies in both Nigeria and the UK. Now we have a sister company that is currently recruiting in Nigeria now. The roles are there, but the skills are not there. We are tired of exchanging, of getting somebody in First Bank to go to Zenith and somebody in that in Access now to replace the First Bank. We are tired of that. We need new people to come in. Okay, so we want to do that and help you succeed so that you don't have any. Because if you go and learn on your own, you don't have the experience. Nobody will hire you. I'm telling you my experience. You get me? Nobody will hire you. So that is for that. So to embark on this program or to be part of this program, then there is this that is in the next screen that you need to cross. So the boot camp, we are running a boot camp, and this boot camp is going to start on the 1st of August this year. And the cost of the boot camp is 200,000 naira per month that is going to span for 6 months. However, our partners reached out to us to say who organized this program because they benefited from our previous graduates. They reached out to us to say that do you know what? We can sponsor your course. So for each person who registers between now and August 1st, our partner is going to take the responsibility of 50% of your monthly payment. So what it means is that instead of paying us 200K for per month for 6 months, our partners will help you cover the one part, or will help you cover 50% of the 200,000 naira per month for 6 months. So that is what our partners have offered. And these are the success stories of those that have worked with us before. There is Philip here who said he was working at a tertiary institution. I know the tertiary institution, to be honest, because he told me his story. He said when he realized that he was not truly happy with his job, and also the pay, he sought a change and he decided to learn backend development at Solanix. This decision transformed his career, and with the skills he gained, he successfully landed a new role as a software developer at a logistics company in Lagos. Let me tell you one funny thing. This tertiary institution that he was working was a tertiary institution in Delta State. But guess what? He landed the job as a logistics company in Lagos. I know this Philip personally. He didn't just land this job as a logistics company. He first worked with a fintech company in Lagos. From a fintech company, he then got a foreign gig to work. He worked with the company for a bit before they moved out of Nigeria. Then he got a job in a logistics company. He got another job. He wanted to move. This logistics company increased the salary and he stayed back. So these are the testimonies that we get from people that have learned from us. We have Uti here. He said Solanix training has helped him master React and Next.js. We gave him hands-on projects and mentorship, and this has given him the skills and confidence to build real-world apps. Thanks to Solanix, I landed a job as a front-end software engineer. Uti currently works in Port Harcourt as a front-end software engineer because he learned front-end through us in the past. Then we have Emmanuel here. Emmanuel said he's thrilled that he learned .NET at Solanix, and this helped him land his dream job at Chevron, at Chevron, at Chevron, Nigeria. And I believe that is a place that a lot of people want to find themselves. Like I told you in the previous slide, multinationals in Nigeria, they use .NET. This journey was challenging. Yes, everything in life was challenging. But guess what? As at then, when he learned this, we did not use Copilot. So it's now easier now. This journey was challenging, but incredibly rewarding. And he's grateful for the skills and opportunity that has shaped his career. So this is from Emmanuel. He works in Chevron. Uti works in Port Harcourt as a front-end engineer, while Philip works in a logistics company in Apapa in Lagos. So these are the success story of those who have come through. We have others, but you can see that the slide do not have enough space for me to put others. We have people that has learned through Solanix and they've relocated out of the country. They are doing very well in Wales, in England, and in Scotland. At least the one I'm aware of. Then I know of somebody in Australia too that is also doing very well. So you guys can be these people that has this success story if you come through or you pass through this Solanix program. Then I can also give you a sneak peek of what you would be learning. So if I share maybe everything on my screen, if I share everything, you can also have a sneak peek. Sorry. Let me just stop sharing first and give you a sneak peek of what you'll be learning. Okay. So I'm going to, yeah. So this is a sneak peek of what you'll be learning. You'll be learning full stack.NET program, but we'll be focusing on backend. Okay, that's why it's full stack, but we'll be focusing on .NET and the backend side. So we'll just do a little bit of React frontend, but we'll focus more on backend because that is where the cash, the box is in both Nigeria and in the UK. Because those are where our company are, those are where we have influence to influence your career after you've done learning with us and you are skilled based on what is required in Nigeria and in the UK. So this is the course overview. This is going to span from 16 to 20 weeks post-start development program. So this is the course format. The delivery will be remote, live online classes. So the classes will be online and it'll be instructor-led. So the instructor will be there. You will not be muted. You will be able to speak unlike this. This was muted because we want to control the time and ensure that we end by 8 p.m. So, and you will go through introduction to C#, some of the things that I started teaching. You go through them in 2 weeks. You will get a full background and everything knowledge about this. In the next 2 weeks, you go to object-oriented programming and how to write clean codes, or what we call using the clean architecture. So you will learn classes, inheritance, polymorphism, solid principles, clean code practice, and you will build a hands-on project. Then in module 3, you will learn things about databases and entity framework and excuse me, entity framework, code operation. You will learn code first and DB first approach. You will learn migrations. And in week 4, you will learn the principles of REST, which is what I was teaching: the get, the post, the put, the delete, the principles, the controllers, the routing, dependency injection, repository and service pattern, API documentation, which already started, and you will build an hands-on project. In week 4, you will then learn sorry, in module 5, you will then learn React front end, and will focus your front end to consuming the backend API that you created. Then we build a sample project. In module 6, that's going to span for 2 weeks. You will then connect your front end to the backend. You will do login, registration, authorization flow. You will do a file upload. You will be sending notifications. You will learn how to handle errors, and you will build a project, on module 6. Module 7, that is, you will then learn deployment, because building software is one, deploying it is another. You will learn deployment in module 6. And then that year I was talking about app settings, configuration, the rest, you will learn that using Azure. Then in that's module 7. Then in module 8, you will then plan your own projects. You will then get a GitHub profile. These things you do in module 8 is what companies they look out for when they are recruiting. So we will set you up for success. Ensure you have a live application that is running that points to your name. Then you will have a peer review and a mentor feedback in module 8. Then this is the part that interests me out of everything. So from the module 1 to module 8, those are training that you will go through. Intensive instructor-led training that you will go through. But that is not even the part that interests me. This is the part that interests me most. The part that interests me most is that let me see. I need to be sure that my screen is being shared. Okay. So the part that interests me most is that why this is happening, our recruitment partners, our HR partners will be helping you in CV writing. When I mean helping you, they will teach you how to write CV and how to set up your GitHub profile with also the help of the instructors. Then, and note, the CV writing is not just to write a generic CV. They'll be teaching you how to write CV as of the duration, as of the time that you're writing this CV, so that you'll be attractive to the job market. Then they will also conduct a mock technical interview with anyone who is ready, who have an application portal. You will just go there and apply to say, do you know what? I want to have a mock technical interview. You will apply, we set up an interview date, and they will drill you. Hopefully, they will drill you more than what a normal HR would do. So that will help you to have thick skins and you will get constructive feedback in it. Then you are going to learn system design basics from our instructor. Then they are going to teach you what direction do you want to go. Is it that freelancing or employment? We are going to teach you the decisions to make if you want to go freelancing. Also, the decision you want to make if you want to go employment. We are also going to teach you back. Then we're going to brand you on LinkedIn so that you will look, in quote, sexy to recruiters. Then the most part that interests me is that after all this, because this is going to work concurrently with the training as well as concurrently with this industry experience. Industry experience is what I love most, because no matter what you've learned, during interview, there is always that question that they ask. Okay, everything is lovely. I love your CV. I love everything. But tell me about your experience. Where have you worked before? Have you worked in the banking environment? Have you worked in a fintech? Have you done this? Have you done that? You get me? This is where you would shine. You would then be paid to a tech company, either in Nigeria or in the UK, based on the tech company that we go to, that we pick you. We have them already. They're excited to meet you. Okay, so you will be paired with either Nigerian company or the UK company. based on whatever we all agree together as at that time, which one is best fitting for you and why you should choose UK or Nigeria at that time. Then once you are paired, you will start joining meetings as if you have started working. You will start building real world project, meaning that this project you are building will be live. Anybody anywhere around the world will start seeing that project is live, and you'll be among the team that will build the project. Then you will learn how to write unit and integration tests. Writing tests is the process of ensuring that the code you write is bulletproof. So test is a code that is written to ensure that your code that you wrote will not break. That is what test is. So you write unit tests to test the basic unit of your code, and you write integration tests to test the whole of your code to be sure that nothing is breaking. Then you will learn how to use Docker and Kubernetes. I chose not to add this as part of the training because most attack training, people do not use Docker and Kubernetes. They only use it within the real world where these things are applied. That's why this is moved to the industry experience. So while you learn it, you will then implement it in the real world environment. Then the last thing you will do is that everything that has been built will then be deployed online for everybody to see the good works of your hand. After that, we'll start pushing your profiles to tech companies, to different companies, both in Nigeria and in the UK, so that hopefully you land your dreams job. So at least we will do something whereby we will prepare you for success and we'll try to push you so that you will have interviews. Then the rest will now be both the things you've learned and the experience you have here will then give you everything you need to pass the interview, which is the level I am today. I have the knowledge, I have the experience. In any interview I enter, I must crush it. And when you brand your CV the way we brand your CV, then you will start getting, let me see what screen is being shared. Then you start getting, okay, so that's connectivity. Then you start getting that kind of DMs that I am getting because I did not apply for those roles. Like I said, everything is coming in from my LinkedIn profile. We will do all that for you. Start getting those kind of seductive messages, begging you to leave where you are working. They'll be begging you to leave Solanix or leave Solanix partners and come and work with them with a good pay. So this is what we will do for you between 4 months to 6 months. 4 months in intensive instructor-led training by our trained professional trainers. Our trainers are based in both Nigeria, UK, and Poland. So you will not have a single trainer in your entire program. You will have multiple trainers coming across, multiple trainer in different topics, so that will help you to understand how the perception from different parts of the world, how .NET works, and these guys will bring in their best experience for you to become the best version of you. With that, I want to say thank you, for listening to me rant, and I look forward to you guys registering for the program. And remember what I said that let me go back again to my slide 1 second. Yeah, remember what I said is that this is a promo, is a discount, is a promo, and it is organized by our partners, and they are the one taking care of 50% of what you will be paying. And this spans between now and August 1st. By August 1st, the bootcamp starts and the promo closes. Meaning, in August 1st, if you say, hey, I am interested in this training in August 1st, you would be redirected to our website where this would be the cost. So if I close this and I scroll down to here, learn more. If I scroll down to here, this would be what you will pay by August 1st, which is this. But if you start with that training, you are going to pay 100K per month. So that is it for if you start. Sorry, if you pick up the promo, you are going to pay 100K per month. So the next question is that how do you then be part of this promo, or how do you benefit, or how do you even engage and enroll with this promo plan? Because on our website, if you go straight to our website, it takes you to the normal price there on our website, which is 200K per month, and a little bit of discount if you are paying 3 months upfront, and also a little bit of discount if you are paying 6 months upfront. But if you want to benefit from this promo, all you need to do is to go to solanix.ng/promo. solanix.ng/promo. So if I go back to my web browser and try that, if I say, hey, this one I want to leverage on the promo, what I will need to do is to go to solanix.ng and slash promo, and this takes me here. So this is where you see your 50% promo discount that is taken care by our partner. So this is where you can enroll for the 100,000, enroll for the 300, enroll for the for 1 month, enroll for 3 months, enroll for 6 months. So for the 1 month, so we build this program where you don't have to pay everything. You can just try with 1 month, see how it goes. If you think you're not really feeling it, you can choose to, say you're not feeling it. But we assure you that you won't start this program and say you want to leave, because we are confident that we are not just here to teach you. We are here to give you the experience you need to acquire a job and start earning in the millions that you are supposed to be earning, like the rest of us who started this thing some time ago. So our 15 years experience, we are bringing everything to you and compressing everything to you within the 4 to 6 months, and giving you the opportunity to gain this experience, gain the confidence, and be drilled by our HR partners so that you can succeed out there, not just by getting a job, but by also succeeding in the job, and also do well in your career. And this promo page slash promo is how you can take advantage of this. So if there's any question, let me just see your questions quickly before, and then also pop in the question if you think you want us to continue with the database part of the training, because this is already more than 2 hours, 30 minutes more than 2 hours that we promised. So I don't want to hold everybody. For those who still want to stay, please pop in the question if you want to continue, and then I will go ahead and continue. Then always remember that you have the opportunity to grab everything at a limited time period with the promo code. So please pop in the chat. Let me see what you're writing, and pop in your questions too. Thank you. So even the link is on the chat. I also drop it there for everyone who think wants to access the link. So it is solanix.ng/promo. So feel free to click on it and secure your spot now. That's just what I would say, because this is a limited time promo, and it's 50%. I would be sad to see go, when you could have taken advantage of it and learned this thing, taking advantage of it. To me, it's free money. Somebody's actually paying free money instead of spending 1.2. Somebody's actually giving you 600,000 naira for free. The difference is that they're not giving you in cash; they're giving you in kind. So please, I will not want you guys to lose these funds, because it is for you. And with this, like you see the success story of others, you see my success story, you saw all these things. Any in 1 million is the minimum, not like minimum. 1 million is just it's not even, you have not gotten to the cloud. It's not even the sky. It's something you will break through. It will be your limit when you have all this necessary knowledge to learn what is needed to be learned. All right, so I will go to the question and see what, if there is any. Um, okay, so uh, okay, I've seen the which database, entity framework or the ADO.net. So, like I said, please just use entity framework. Don't do ADO.net. The good news about entity framework is that entity framework can execute SQL. So there's the execute raw method of entity framework we can use to execute direct SQL. But why I don't like it is because um, .NET is an object-oriented programming language. You cannot, if you have to change, if you have to add additional properties or additional record you want to return to the data from the database, you would have to manually be managing a text rather than just add the record in the class and you are good. You get me? So that's why I always advise entity framework than writing SQL. Okay, so let me scroll down and see. Um, okay, so please take advantage of the promo. All right, take advantage of the promo. So, Ugo say Wabu, you will try to see the DB part. James says, so if I pay 100K for 1 month, the next month won't be the same, but 300K. No, that's not it, James. So it is 100K per month. Okay. So you are seeing 300K there because we believe that some people will, one, you may not have all the money. Number two is that you may be doubting, or you just feel like you want to test, which is normal. I do that sometimes, or if I do that most times, I will want to do a trial, then I will then commit. Okay. So the that's why there's the 100K. All right. So if you don't have enough money or you don't have all the money, you can pay 100K. But that 100K is going to expire at the end of that month, because for every new month, there is a new link that is generated for the bootcamp. All right. So that means that in the next month, you have to pay another 100K to get the new link. All right. So that's the thing with the 100K. So if you pay 300K, it means that you are paid for 3 months upfront. All right. 300K means you are paying for 3 months upfront. 600K means that you are paying one off. You don't need to, after you have paid that 600K, you are done. You are good. You can hit your chest to say you are on your way to start earning as a highly paid C#.NET engineer. That is if you pay the 600K. You don't need to bother about anything. Let our guys take care of you like a baby. So that's the idea with the 600K. So if I need to reiterate, 100K is paying for 1 month, but you have to repay another 100K continuously until you get to 6 months. But 300K is paying 3 months upfront, while 600K is paying everything one off upfront. So that's that. So with that, and Ugo, and we still have about 10 people left in the call, then I'll go ahead with C sharp. So please, success, you will help me to take care of or help me read out any questions that pops in, because I want to close the chat and continue. Thank you. All right. So I'll be switching back to C sharp, to Visual Studio rather. Where's my Visual Studio? All right. Okay. So we are here. We can see that we have received all the API requests from the endpoint that was called, and we can do stuff with it. Okay. But the stuff I want us to do now is to save it in a database, right? So I created a service folder here where I am doing stuff. Okay. So for the purpose of this class, and because I don't want to spend too much time, I will just go ahead and implement the database rather than doing what is called the repository pattern. So I will do the service pattern alone without the repository pattern, so that we can quickly see how this record we receive is stored in the database. Okay. So I will go ahead now and right click this and add a service that is going to handle the registration sign up process. So to do that, I will go ahead and add a class as a new item, and say call this registration service. Okay, and I'll clean up this as usual. So this is it. And in the registration service, so this registration, we already have a sign up. Like in this registration controller is the API. This now is the service. The API has a sign up action. Therefore, the service also needs a sign up method. You can see that Copilot already thought of it, and they already suggested that he wants to create a sign up method. And I will go ahead and accept it. All right. And I'm going to return a sign up response. So I'm accepting a request. I also want to return back a response at the end of this sign up process. All right. So the response, I will create a sign up response class to return my response back. So I will say sign up response .cs to return the response. So, like I said, if you are just using something for data to pass data from one to the other, I rather you use a record than a class. All right, that's why I'm changing it to a class, and hopefully soon .NET will create a template for record, so you don't have to create a class first, then change it to a record. So for now, I only want to return a message, a confirmation message. Okay, I don't want to return a timestamp. I'll just take a message alone. All right. So what that means is that we'll receive the sign up request. When we've done stuff, we will return the message. So this message we are returning in the controller here. Let me move this here. Okay. Let me move this service here. The request should be here and the response is here. So that's fine. So controller service request response. So what this message we are returning here, I want this message to come from the service, not coded here in the controller. So I'll take this one here at this point. Okay. So I will return the message back. So I will say return. So the message is of type string because in programming, there are different types of the way you hold data, or there's something called a variable. Variable is a container, it's like a cup. You use it in holding data, and there are different type of data that C# understand. There's a string data. String is like when you have alphanumeric. So if I say a variable is this, if I say response now is, let's say response is the container, and you accept this where you am writing this. This is a string response. Sorry. So this is a string response. Whatever is alphanumeric, blah, 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 alphabet space is a string response. Whatever is a number is an integer response. Okay, is an integer variable. Sorry, pardon me. Whatever is a combination of stuff, words and string. Whatever is a number is an integer. Okay, you can see this has turned to int, which denotes integer. Whatever, there are different types. Whatever is true or false. If I say true or false, it is a bool or called boolean type. So I can change this to false. True or false is bool. Okay, you use it in decision making. True or false, you use it in decision making. So there are different types. Okay, there's even a date type. There's a date time type. There is a there are a lot of types, and as we proceed, we will see those lot of types. But for now, since it's just a message I'm returning, excuse me, since it's just a message I'm returning, I will return it as a type string. Okay, return of type string, or sorry, I remember that I created a response object, so I'm returning this object, not the string. Okay, apologies for that. I'm returning this object, so I'll say return new. You can see that Copilot is already suggesting what I want to do, so I'll just go ahead and accept it. So note, I'm saying that I want to return a type of string of sign up response, but I am returning a type of void. Void means that, sorry, you're not returning anything, just to run your code and move on with your life. So I need to specify that I am returning sign up response. So I will copy that, paste it here. That shows I'm returning this sign up message, sign up a confirmation message. I don't I don't like this confirmation message. I want it to be message. I will go here and change it to just message, okay, of type string, and I will come back here and change it to message. So, but with Visual Studio, let me undo what I just did. With Visual Studio, I can actually come here to say, let me change it to message now. I can come here to say, I will delete this. I will hold control, press dot, and I will have this to rename confirmation to message. If I click on this, every instance of sign up response with a message that was confirmation message and I've changed to message, it will change it in everywhere that I'm using it. If I go back to this, you will see that this message has also changed because I use that control dot and I use that rename, which is replace it in everywhere that has an instance of it. So now I'm returning the sign up response back to whoever is calling it. So that takes care of that. So now this is where I would take care of the insert and take care of the database stuff. Okay. Or let me go back and do this. Bring this one here. Okay. Then I will go to the controller. Okay. And I want to bring in this. I want to call this registration service sign up function or method from the controller. So to do that, I would have to introduce something called dependency injection, which is one of the topics I'm supposed to cover today. So I cannot call a service from a controller without implementing dependency injection. So what is dependency injection? It's a process of registering a service, you get me, so that you can use it multiple times without having to create that service. That is what dependency injection is. So how do I register that service? First thing I need to do is that I will have to create an interface of this service. So the interface is what I will be using, you get me, anywhere instead of this service itself. How do I create the interface? With using of, that's why I recommend Visual Studio. Visual Studio is very easy. Just come in here, you will see this. You will click on this. You will see extract interface. Note, I can manually create it, but why should I reinvent the wheel when I already have this to do that? So if I say extract interface, if I click on this, it will give me this option to say, this is your service, right? And your service is a registration service. So I want to create a new type of interface called I registration service. Note, I is the prefix of an interface. You put I in front of it to identify it as an interface so that any software developer that is looking at this code, they know that it's an interface. That's why you put an I in front of it. Okay. So this I now help us to this will help us automatically create the interface. So they're asking you, do you want to add the interface to this current file? Nope, it's not a good way to do that because it will kind of mess up the file. You rather take it to a new I file called iRegistrationService.cs. And note, whenever you do this that I did, it's going to create the interface together with this in the same folder of the service. So now that you have created it, they're asking you what is the method you want to expose through the interface. I want to expose this sign up method I created because it's public, right? So if I say, okay, it will create the interface. It will then inherit the interface from here, all right? If we go to the interface, which is this that it has created, you can see that it's saying, I'm creating an interface. I have no code, but I'm just implementing, I'm just exposing the sign-up method in my interface. Let me just go here and clean here up so that it will be a shorter way of writing the namespace. Now, I can take this interface into the controller and use it to call the registration service. So if I right click on this registration service and I say go to implementation, it will take you to the service that is implementing it. Because the interface is not implementing, it's just representing. All right. So I will have to take this to the controller and inject it in the controller. And what is the service doing? It's doing exactly the same thing that the interface is doing. So this thing was that thing that displayed all the message in the console that showed before, and it's also returning this successfully. So I will not return this because the service is now returning it back. I will not display this on the console window or the app window because the service is also doing that. I won't do that, and it will work if and only if I inject and I use the interface here. But unfortunately, I cannot inject this interface because I'll have to register it as a dependency, which is dependency injection. To do that, I'll have to go to my program.cs file. You will see that before now, we are seeing things like builder.service.addController. This controller is a dependency that was injected when we created this solution. Swagger is also, which Swagger is the API documentation stuff that you saw. It was also injected. Let's go ahead and inject our own. To inject it, you will say builder.services.add scoped. All right. Then you specify the interface. All right. Comma. You specify the service. So let me take this one off. Then it's a method. So our method is closed by using this. All right. So Now we have different types of registering services. We have the add scoped, add transient, and we have the add single team. The big question is that what's the difference between three of them and when should you use three of them? If you are registering a service is created and run every time a request is made from the front end, right? So anytime something is you want it to be created and you want it to run, every time a request is made, it's advisable to use scoped, which is this. All right. Then anytime, but if you want it to be created once, okay, and it should be used once, and next time you call it again, it will not create it. It will just go and collect the previous one that was created and it will reuse that. Then you should use single team. Single team means you create the service once and you reuse it for the entire time that this application is alive. The danger of single team is that if you are expecting a different data after the first request, subsequent request data would not change. So I made this mistake earlier in my career. I used a single team to call a service that is, I'm using it to log in a user. Do you know what happened? The first user logged in, it returned the user data. When the next user logged in, the next user, because it's not refreshing, it's not creating it as a new one, he went to log in the second user as the first user. And somebody was able to make a transfer. Basically, it's like I logged into your banking account as you, because you are the first person who logged in into that app. So the second user was able to make a transfer from that first user account. What just blocked that user was that the user needed to enter a PIN. But the good news is that that transfer that the second user was not actually a customer. The second user was actually the quality assurance engineer that was testing our code to be sure everything is fine. So he was the one who flagged it to say, why am I logging in this as another user and it's showing the first user that logged in? That was when I checked and I saw that it's because I used single team. So single team stored the first user and it keep maintaining it. Then the third thing one is transient. Transient is used, but you only use transient when transient means that it creates and it destroys these services or this whatever you are injecting every time it is called, not once per request. So scoped is once per request. Um, Singleton is once in the entire application lifetime, except you restart the application. The transient is anytime you see the word, like you say, anytime you see this interface, it will destroy it and it will recreate it, and that is unnecessary killing and recreating resources. There are times that you need to use transient, but most times when you are registering a service, you use scoped. So that is it for dependency injection. And you can ask questions if it's kind of still not clear, and I will try to answer it. Okay. So now that we've done this, I can now inject this in my controller. Else, I won't be able to inject it. If I inject it, you won't get any error. But when you run the application, it will tell you that you are trying to use a dependency of a service that was not previously registered. So to insert it here, I will just add this at the end of my controller. I will bring in my interface, which is the registration service, and this is it. So this is the variable of this interface. This is the object of this type. So I will then use this object to call, say, var, I can say var response, okay, to now be this. Registration service dot that method that I exposed to the interface, which is sign up, and I'm accepting this request inside of it. So now I have my response, which is the sign up response. And this response has the message property in it, and I can now return this message. Note, the code that was here, I've moved it to the service. To go to the service from here, you can just like click this method and say go to implementation, and it will take you there. VS Code, you can do all this, but it's not as flexible as Visual Studio. If you have used Visual, I started using Visual Studio before VS Code. That's why I feel more comfortable with this. So this thing I've moved to this other place. If I run the program, it's still going to give me the same thing, But the difference is that it's not running on the controller. My controller is now very clean. The code in my controller is clean and few, while I've moved the responsibilities to the service. Let's run this to be sure that all the dependencies are properly um, set up and there are no errors so far. So I'm running it. So when you run your application, the first thing that happens is that if you look at this side of your Visual Studio, that build panel, you see that it is compiling the entire code. So all this code is compiling everything, compressing everything to create a final build, which is a lightweight version of it, right? So when you see all this and you see that this, you know that is running and Swagger comes up, if you go back here and we fill in this information like we did the other time, say Samuel, Sam, email, say Sam at, let me just show you something. I want to send an invalid email, okay? And phone, let's just put a phone number to say 08012345678 The message, let's just say any message. Yeah, yeah. So now we'll go back to this and put a breakpoint. I'll put a breakpoint here. So if I click on this, you'll see that it goes and it does not validate the email, it just accepts it, okay? And it sends the entire request here. So this is now the service. This is no longer the controller. Controller is receiving everything like the service. You can see everything here, the email, the phone, the everything. So if I go ahead and run it, it then returns this thing back and we get the same way behavior as if we are writing the code in the controller. Note, it's a bad practice to write code in controller. Always move your code to the service in .NET. It's very, very, very bad and bad practice to write code in controller. Your controller must always be as clean as what you saw. All right. So now we sent an invalid email and we don't like it. How do we validate it? That's one thing I love about .NET. Validating inputs is one of the easiest things in the world. There are two ways to validate it. You can validate it using attributes, or you can install a third-party package or library called Fluent Validator to use in validating. But for the course of today, I will just use the simple one, which is the attribute, which is the sign-up request. Okay. So I'll go to the sign up request because that is what the request is coming through the API, right? Or if I let me go to the controller first, look at the sign up request here. I will go inside of it. I'm holding control and I'm clicking on it and it takes me here. So I'll go to this front of this email. I will open and close the square bracket. Inside of it, I will write data type. All right. And I will open a bracket and say that this data type should be of type email address. This will automatically help me to validate this to ensure that it's email. Let me go ahead and move further for the name. To say that I want this name to be required. Meaning if you don't enter a name, you should not submit. You should not allow it go, right? This is how you validate inputs that comes from the server. I'll leave, let phone be blank, let message be blank. That's fine. So I'll go ahead and try this now. To turn off my audio because my other Bluetooth is low, so I can switch to the other Bluetooth device. 1 second. While this is running, you can also drop your question if you have concerns. If you have questions, please drop. Hello, can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, please drop on the chat that yes, you can hear me. Okay, cool. All right. So notes, if you look at the Swagger documentation, which is API documentation, you can see that the setup request is telling you a name. The name, if I click on this, you tell you that the name accept a string type, email, is string, phone is string, message is string. So it gives you the structure of whatever you are sending. Then if I come here now to do this, remember I said that name should be required, so I'll leave it empty. The email, I'll put an invalid email. Phone, I'll make it empty, which is not required, so that's not a problem. Message, I'll make it empty, which is not required, that's not a problem. So let me try and submit this. And you see you have a validation error, which says that one or more validation error occurred. You get a bad response type, not a successful OK type. And it will tell you that the name field is required, right? That is what we get. Name field is required. Let me see if I enter the name field and see if the email is going to validate. If I say Samuel in the name and I don't enter email, unfortunately, it went. Let me see why this did not validate. So this is supposed to flag that the email is invalid. So let me see. Uh, so, well, let me don't just go much into it because, like I said, there are two ways of validating your request object. One is using attributes, the other is using Fluent validation. And I actually use Fluent validations. The last time I used attributes was like in 2012, 2014. That was when we used this. So I'm not too sure if this has changed because I've stopped using this since 2012, 2014. So using a Fluent validation would be better. But uh, let me, since this is not, I don't plan doing it now, but since this is not giving us what we want, I guess I will just go ahead and do that. But what I will do for now first is let's go ahead and connect to database first, because so that is what I believe most of you are interested in, and then we'll come back again to this validation, okay, using Flame validation. So I will go to the service, registration service, and let's save to the database, and I will remove all that. So to save to the database, first thing we need is a database, right? And I'm using SQL Server as a database, right? SQL Server is what I'm using as database. So there are two ways to set up your database. There's the code first approach, meaning you write your code and your code automatically creates the database. And there is the DB first approach, meaning you write your database and you will plug it into your code. All right. Some people also create a database and use the database to automatically generate their codes. All right. So to me, I'm not really a fan of code first. I'm not a fan of database first. I'm a fan of getting a middle ground, meaning that I will write my code, I will write my database, design my database, and I will connect both of them together. So that is what I will do here because as a backend engineer, you need to have good understanding of how a database works and the structure of a database, how to structure it, and what a database is, and the innuendos of the database. That's why I don't like my code to automatically generate my database because I feel like I'm abstracting something that I could have jolly well look at it and design it myself as the I have a very good database design experience. Okay, so with that, I am going to design my database and I would I'm going to design my database and I will connect it to my code. That is what I will do in this course. But when you sign up for the program, I'm going to show you the code first approach. People no longer do the DB first approach, so I won't just bother to do that because you won't like the code that your database will generate. It's not really, it doesn't really look good, and it's not something that companies feels comfortable for you to push to their production environment. So I'll go ahead and design my database, all right, and I'll plug my code to connect it to the database. So how do I do that? How do I even determine how to design the database? First, let's look at the problem. The problem is that is um 1 second. So the problem is that I am accepting data that is sent from the front end, okay, to my API, and I want to store it. And what is the data? The data is name, email, phone, and message. So I will create these 4 fields in my database so that they can be stored in the database. So now I want to switch to my database, okay? So this is what I use as my database. SQL Server is my database, right? And this is how SQL Server looks like. To install SQL Server, you can go online to say SQL Server. You want to create or install SQL Server, all right? And it's easy to do that. Some people can actually create a database from Visual Studio, okay? So that one also works, but the interface, I don't really find it too interesting. That's why I like having SQL Server separate from Visual Studio, but that does not mean it doesn't work. I just like having the best of everything. That's the reason why I use SQL Server Management Studio for my database. So when you install your SQL Server, it's going to ask you to specify a server name during the installation process. It's also going to tell you to enter a system admin username and password. You also are going to ask that, do you want it to use default Windows authentication? If you say yes, okay, to Windows authentication, and you specify a server name, that specific name is specified during installation, go back and add it. This is the server name I specified during my installation. So this was installed. And this too, I told it to accept Windows authentication during the installation. So those things were true. That's the reason why I can enter that server name here, okay, and I can just go ahead and say connect, and it will connect to this SQL server. All right. I also think that if you install Visual Studio will also install this server for you. But I cannot really remember because it's been a long time I've installed Visual Studio. I've just been using it as I go on. And I hardly have my own local database because I've been working in mostly production environment. So I'll go ahead and click connect. And this will connect to the local SQL server I have on my machine, which is this. This is the database that exists on my machine, okay? And now I only have an existing database here. I don't really have much. So I'll go ahead and create a new database for what we are doing. And how do you name your database? You basically name your database the naming of your solution or the naming of your project. So our naming is training. So I'll go ahead here and say training. Some people like adding DB, but I don't like adding DB because DB is just a suffix for database. But I'm okay with just what the solution does, which is training. So I'll go ahead and click on this, and that creates the database called training. So now I have a database, but to use a database, you need to have what we call tables. How do you define your tables? How do you know how many tables you need, and how do you decide what becomes a table? So first, I need to explain what the table is. Imagine for those of you that have used Excel, Excel has rows and columns. The combination of rows and columns makes a table. All right. So a table needs to have columns. The columns we call it fields, while the rows we call them records in database. So please, I'm trying to use Excel to help you explain how database looks like. The database is the table in a database is the combination of rows and columns, like the way Excel is. The column, which is the A, B, C, D, is the fields in data in SQL Server. Then the rows, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, is the records in database. Okay. Then I also need to explain to you that there are different types of databases. There's relational database and there's a no SQL database. SQL Server is a relational database. Okay, a relational database is a kind of database where you have rows and columns. You have rows and columns, all right, which is rows and columns, all right. That is relational databases. An example is SQL Server. For no SQL, I don't think we'll need to bother about that now because it's not what I think we would ever use during the course of our entire training. The only thing I think we will do, if for those who subscribe, is that we will also show you another kind of database, which is Postgre, because from my experience in Nigeria, SQL Server is commonly used, but in the UK, Postgre is commonly used because Postgre is faster than SQL Server. So you will learn both of them during the course of the boot camp. So let's go ahead and add a table. How do you know how many tables or what the table you want to add? Do you know that by just going to your project and you go to the controller? What the hell are we doing? We are doing sign up, right? Even if you look at the service, what the hell are we doing? We only care about sign up. What that means is that the name of your table needs to be sign up. Sorry. Let me rephrase. What are we doing? We are doing registration. In the registration, we are signing up, which is adding. Then we can also say we want to unsubscribe, sign up or delete our account. That is removing. Okay. So if you sign up, is adding to your registration. If you say you want to update your sign up, change your email address, that is exiting the database. If you say you want to delete your sign up details, that is removing data from the database. However, all the data you are pushing and removing to the database are all going into a single thing you are doing, which is what? Registration. Right? So the name of your table becomes registration, which is your controller name and your service name is usually your table name. With this, is there any question? So note, your controller name that also sync with your service name is usually your table name. With that, is there any question? If no question, then I'll go ahead and create the table called registration. So every table must have an ID. So I'll just say an ID, and the data type should be unique identifier. That is what Entity Framework or Microsoft recommends. It used to be integer, but now they recommend that. And your ID colon must not be null and must be marked as the primary key. So why are we doing this? So all your table must have this. All is compulsory. And why are we doing this? In relational database, you need a key. A key is like is an address to a particular location in your table. What that means is that imagine that you open an account in a bank, all right, and 50 million Nigerians too also open an account number in that bank. If you go there to say you want to see your account balance, if that table where they stored your account details does not have a key, do you know what will happen? When they are trying to query your account balance, the system you may even stay there for morning till night because the system will be scanning from the first account they opened until you get to your own. But because there is a key in the table, it does not need to wait. It will just jump straight to your account number because that has been used as the key, or there's an ID that is mapped to ensure that it comes quickly because your key is the address, is the location on in the table, your location where your data resides. You use the key to just go ahead and open the correct door, grab your account details, and return it back. So that's why we use a key. It's for direct access. Else, you will be scanning through all the data before you find the one that matches. But key gives you the direct access. So what are the fields we want to put in the database? We want to put in name, we want to put in email, we want to put in a name, email, phone, and message, right? So I've gone to the Visual Studio to copy all of them. So I'll just come here to say um, name. Name is usually n vaca. I just leave it 50. So in database, when you specify the type, you need to specify the size of the maximum size of the character that will come in. For now, the purpose of this training, I don't believe everybody name will be full name will be greater than 50 characters for now. But if you are building a real project, we would do this better. For instance, we won't just put full name. We will say surname, first name, other name. Okay. But for now, I think, and I believe you are filling any bank form, they only separate them surname, first name, other name is because this is how they store the record behind the scene. But for now, this works. And first name is required. So I will leave that there. Then email is also a character. So I will say nvaca. Leave it at 50 is also required. Then phone, let's say phone is not required. I would say NVACA. The amount of phone number is 11. So I'll put this on 11. But let me just give one more extra in case. Or, let me say, in case person say plus 234. So that will then be 11, 12, 13, 14. So I will say 14 or just give it a max of 15. So I say 15 characters. Then what's the last thing? Message. Message can be usually long. So I will, in the front end, we'll cap the person's message to like 1,000 characters. Then here we'll specify 1,000. Note, you can choose to say max. You can choose to say mvaca max, meaning you don't want to care about the size. But when you deploy this database, somebody can just send a hi, but that will take unlimited space. And that is unhealthy when you are paying for the database subscription on Azure or on a cloud platform. So that's why it's good to always give this thing, give a limit in the data you collect. So this now is the table. Let's save it and give it a name. Like I told you, the name of the table is the same name of what we are doing. In this case, is registration. And in table names, please always make it plural. Please always make it plural. That is a naming convention, especially when you are using entity framework. So S, all right? So registrations, if I go back here and expand table, you would see registrations there. So it's still taking its time to expand. I know it is there, so I won't just bother, right? So let's quickly switch back to Visual Studio. So now I've designed my database. I'm happy. I will move on now from database. That's why I said it's good for somebody to have experience in designing database, not just writing code and letting the code design a database. So everything I did there, I now need to set up, and I now need to connect basically my code to my database. To do that, I'm going to create a folder called, I could have just called it data, but I'll call it infrastructure. The reason why it's called infrastructure is because database is an external tool or external service, totally different from our application. All the external service needs to go into where we call or we mark them as an infrastructure. But I will talk more on this one during the complete training. Then let me create a folder called database or persistence. I use the word persistence because persistence means that you are persisting. Persisting means you are saving. It does. You are keeping it. You are not losing it. When you give me something, you trust me that whenever you come, you will get it. That is persistence. That's why, and database is one of them. So I will put this there. Then within persistence, I will then create my database context. This is what connects. This is what connects with the database. What's the name of the database? It is training. So I will say training context. All right. Okay. I'll clean this one up. And in this training context, I then need to specify, um, 1 second. I then need to connect it to the database, right? So before I do that, I will need to install Entity Framework, which is a library or a tool that helps us to connect to our database and query our database, right? To do that, I will go to Dependencies, Package, right click, go to Manage, and I will search for Entity Framework. In this case, Entity Framework Core, because we are writing .NET Core. Go to Browse, and I'll say Entity Framework. So I have Entity Framework Core. So I'm going to install this. This may not install, but let me see. Okay, installed. So then, well, I said it may not install because I saw Entity Framework 9, which means I actually used .NET Framework 9. Else it would have been Entity Framework 8. So now, what is the database type I'm using? I'm using SQL Server, right? So I need to look for Entity Framework Core.SQL Server. So I have that installed. So I have these two installed. Then I also have the Swashbuckle ASP.NET Core is actually the is the Swagger, and it's asking that I should update it because he installed version 6 and I can update it to version 9. So I'll actually go ahead. If you go to update, you'll see that it's complaining of I need to do this. So I'll just go ahead and update this, give it the opportunity to update it. All right, so everything is installed, everything is fine. So let's come back to this. So once I can do that, then once I've installed that, then I can bring in DB context. Okay, I can inherit DB context. And DB context say, hey, I don't exist. Yes, I know you don't exist because I have to bring in your namespace using Microsoft.entityframework.core, and that brings that one in. So that gives me access to using entity framework. Okay. So if there's any question so far, you guys can let me know and I will address it. Else, I'll just go ahead and proceed. Okay, so since nobody's saying anything, so to set this one up, I will just go ahead and pass in the something called a DB context options. Okay, because we need the settings to come in here when we are setting up the database, and it should be of type training context, which is our own DB context, training context, and I will just call this one options. Okay, and that will be passed in to the base option here, to the base DB context. I'll just call this say option here. So if I don't do this, then I won't be able to connect to my database because my database connection, I need to specify it as part of these options. Then you need to pass it back into entity framework. This entity framework, you need to pass it into it. If not, you won't be able to connect to my database. All right. Now that I have that, I want to define my table. Okay. So to define your tables, so this is your database training context. Then I want to define my table. I can do that by saying public DB set. So DB set is my table. What is the name of my table? My table is registration, if I remember correctly. So I will now need a class that will hold the object of my table, right? I will need a class that will do that. So I will go ahead and create a folder called model. Models are things that hold, I call it model, I can call it entities, but let me just call it models for now. You know what? I will just call it entities. So entities are basically a class that has a structure of your table. So I will go ahead and say this is registration. If you have that saved up here, registration class, okay? And this registration should have this. So the ID I created in the database should have it. This ID should be GUID. GUID is the equivalent of unique identifier in SQL Server. Name, email, phone is not compulsory, message is not compulsory. Then I think the date which this message was sent is, I think it's cool for us to have it. So sorry guys, let me just go and create this date in SQL Server. So let's quickly switch to SQL Server and I will add the date here, the dates created, which is created at, and I put this one as date time. The date is compulsory, so I won't make it non-label. Then I will save. Look at my registration table, plural. Here, I will save this table. Okay. Then now I will go back to Visual Studio and go back to my DB con. Now I have my table structure. I'll go back to my DB context to say that DB set of type registration. Okay. And the registration, I imported this using training API entities because that is where it exists. Then this is my type. Now I want to give it a name. The name needs to match your table name. My table name is registration in plural, so I'll go ahead and add this on in plural, right? And I do this and semicolon. So this is, sorry, no semicolon. So this is how I map this table to the table in SQL Server by making it a DB set, and it should have the same structure of the table, right? Which is ID, name, email, phone, message, and when the message was created. Now that I have this, the last thing I need to do is to create a physical connection string. A connection string is like, when you connect a wire, when you plug a wire to your phone for your phone to charge. So there's a current that passes through the wire. That wire itself is the connection string that connects to the database. So you need a physical connection, but in this case now, it's just a string. And you do that in your, sorry, not launch settings. You do that where you enter all your configurations, which is your app settings. All right. So I like my connection string to be the first thing here. So Copilot is already helping me to set up the connection string. So I'll just go ahead and accept it. All right. So I'll accept it and I'll make the connections when necessary. So your connection string, you need to know what is important. What is important first is the server, all right, the database name, and if you are using any kind of what are they calling, username and password to access it. The server, I will go to SQL Server to copy it. Let me switch to SQL Server back so that you see what I'm copying. So this is the server. This is the server here. Okay. To get it, just click on connect button, connect to the database. This that thing that was in the server name, I said you will get when you are installing SQL Server. That is the server. So I will copy this. Then note, I'm not using any username and password. I'm just using Windows authentication, meaning the username and password I use in logging to my PC is Windows authentication. I don't need to bother about username and password. All right, let's switch back to Visual Studio. So the server will not be localhost, which will be this. All right, I've pasted the server. The database is just training. There's no DB. Remember, I told you that many people are writing DB. That's why AI suggested that it's DB. Then I'm not using any username and password. right? I'm just using direct connection. So, but normally, all of my experience, I'm using username and password. Unfortunately, I did not configure username and password for uh, my SQL server. So I will have to tell it to use trusted connection. If I remember that correctly, because it's been a while I've done this, I just say trusted connection is equals to true. Do you know what? Let me work with AI to help me to be sure it's correct. So yeah, you can see it. You can see that I made a mistake. I didn't put underscore. So it's trusted underscore connection equals to true. Yeah. So I'll go ahead and accept this. And you also suggested that I should put multiple active results set equals to true. What this means is that multiple requests can go to the database without any challenge. So I'll just say that, yes, that should just be true. I will leave that since Copilot suggested it. My AI suggested it. So this is a connection to the database. Now, I don't like using default connection as the name of the connection string. I rather use the training context, which is what I'm using psychologically and as the name of my DB context. Okay, so I'll copy this to replace this. All right. So anytime I use say training context in string, or I say name of training context, they will be the same thing. Now, the last thing I need to do is to now register my database. Remember, database is a service. You also have to register it, right? To register it is one of the easiest things to do. You just say builder dot services. So since I have entity framework installed, I can now say dot add SQL server. It's as simple as this. And I will put the context here, okay, that I'm adding. Excuse me. Then now I need to pass in the connection string. You can see Visual Studio is even telling you what you need to do. I need to pass in the connection string here, right? So the connection string would be builder.configuration.get connection string, and the name of this. Remember, the connection string name is what? If we go back to the app settings, connection string is training context. So I need to put training context here. So it matches this. But because I have a rule of not, I don't like hard coding because somebody can by mistake press this and there will be no error. That's what we mean by hard coding. Or also the word magic string. Because magic string or hard coding is something that if an error happens, you won't know. But if it is this, that is a class, if I put an error, you can see that it will tell me that there's an error here. So I want this kind of thing here. Okay. So, and that is even the reason why I chose to name the connection string the same so that I can make it a class. So I'll just say the name of that training context class is what I feel comfortable with. So if by mistake I do this, it's going to say, hey, there's an error, fix it. So it's easier like this. So this is the last thing I need to do to connect to my database, and I'm good. Right? So my database connection is complete. I created the database, I created the DB context, I mapped the tables in the DB context. So I created the database, then this is the DB context, right? I pass in the options. These options is actually this connection string options that we pass here. Then I now map the table. This is the table I'm mapping. I created the class I mapped it with too, so that anytime I say db set dot or I say context dot registrations, automatically I have all the data in the table. Then the next thing, so I've done that. Then I've also added connection string, right? And then I have registered my database as a service. So I am done with the database. All I need to do now is just go to the service and now say, database, I want you here and I want to store data in you. That's all I'm now doing in the service. How do I do that? I will do that by injecting the database here, which is this. I call it context. Note, in the complete bootcamp, we will use a repository pattern to create a repository for the database so that you don't have to bring in your database into your service. The reason why we use a repository pattern is because number one, So you can write proper unit and integration tests because it will be crazy to be writing tests directly on a DB context. Number two, if somebody say, now we no longer want to use entity framework, we want to use enterprise library or want to use edu.net, you don't have to touch your service. Just update your repository and you are good. So back to this, all we need to do now is to then create an object type that this context understands. So that object type is, we'll say context dot, sorry. So this context, we need a type. Do you know what? Let's just type it. Context dot. So context is the database, registration is the table, and I want you to add a record to the table, right? But I want the table record to be of type of, what is the type is he asking for? He said this type must be a type of entities dot registration, the registration type, because that is what he understands. So how do I create that registration type? I will create it by saying var registration equals to new registration. Okay, I will press Ctrl dot to bring this one in. And entity AI has helped me to grab all the information in this sign up request and put it into this registration. You can see it here. Then I can now add this registration into this registration.add is happy. So this goes to the database, but it does not stop save in the database. If something happens along the way and there's an error, this will not save in the database. For it to save, I have to specify context.save changes. So this is what saves it into the database, and that is what commits it. That's what persists it in the database. So in a newer version of entity framework, you do not need to actually specify the table. Once you have this type, entity framework automatically knows what table to map this record to. So I can take this one off like this, and we are good. Okay. So if I do this, I save. I can put a breakpoint here to be sure that there are no errors, and we'll run it through step by step. If you are enjoying this so far, please, I need you to drop a chat. Eight. Okay, if I go back and refresh, oh, it's loading a separate window. So everything seems fine. We have been okay. Unfortunately, I was just running on the wrong browser. So let me go back and add a name, my full name this time, as long as it's not up to 50 characters as specified in the database. Email, I can just say Samuel at eumail.com. And phone, I can say 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and the message to say this has been fun in a crazy way. I'm going to, sorry, undo. I'm going to save this in my clipboard so I can use it in the future. So I will click on execute. So the code hits the backend API. Come on, take me there. All right, so I'm in the service. I'll create the new registration object. If I step over, it go ahead, it creates the new registration object. We have a new registration object. If I look at the registration object here now, and this is one of the reasons why I like Visual Studio. You can investigate to see what is going on, in your code, why the code is executing. You can see I have an email. The ID is not an ID yet. The message, my name, the phone. So now I'm going to add it to the database as long as Entity Framework is not going to say that you are using the wrong version. And no problem so far. Then it has added it to the entity for it to track it. But this is the point where it's going to save it to the database. So are you going to save it, or you are going to give me headache? So it's saving, and it has successfully saved in the database. So if I go back to this registration entity, you'll see that the ID that was 000 now has an ID. So this is the ID of this record in the DB, and I can search by this ID and I will get this record. I can search by email, search by phone, and I'll get this record. So if I just go ahead and say end, you would see that if I go to SQL Server, which is this, and I say I want to see all the data in this database, you will see the new ID, the name, email, phone, message are created. So it has been fun. Because of time, I would be stopping here. I would have loved to fetch data back from the database. It's easy. I would love to update data from the database. It's also easy, but because of time, I won't be able to do that. But let me just see quickly if AI is going to help me to suggest that. Unfortunately, it is not, so I guess I'll be stopping here. But to get data in the database, it's easy. The same way you say context dot message dot add. In this case, to fetch data from database, you will say, do you know what? Let me just even do this to say get all records. Let's see that AI will do something about this. Okay, AI does not work when I'm currently running. Yeah. So let's do this like this. And yes, so this is the only code you need to write to fetch all the record from DB. You can go ahead and format this in more, and it will be like this. And this will get all the records from all the registration from the database, right? Then I would go ahead and let me do say get by ID. Then what's the code for ID? This is it to get by an ID. Then delete. This is how to delete. This is code to delete. First, you need to search whether the ID exists. If it exists, then if it does not exist, return false. But if it exists, then you go ahead to remove it, save changes, and returns true. All right. Then for updates, let me see, update the record by ID. This is how you update the record. You first find the record, then you update the fields you want to update, and you say save changes is what is committing it, and you return true. So you can see how fast I'm writing all this code with the help of Copilot. And with the help of Copilot too, I think my system is frozen. With this that has happened, I'm confident that if I go to the controller, this will also help me write the rest. You can see get by ID. No, this is get all. Then get by ID. Okay. Then, excuse me. This is delete. Is deleting. And this is update for put. Is updating. You can see Copilot wrote the code. So you are seeing that this is not happening because the code exists in the service, but it does not exist in the interface. I'll just go back to the interface that is not yet implementing it, and this should bring all this for me. You can see delete and update. Then I can just say, hey, bring back this object for me, import. And if I don't go ahead and run this, if I save all and I run this, you'll see that I've created 4 endpoints, a CRUD operation that inserts a sign-up details, get all registration, get a single registration by ID, delete it by the ID, and also update it if the need be. So that's how you see that coding is easy because you now have the support of AI. Once you can write the first code, AI can predict other things you want to do. You will do stuff, you can choose to then look at it. See, I basically wrote one endpoint. Okay, I spent my time to do that, but I wrote 4 endpoints in less than a minute because of the use of AI. To test that is working, if I call the get to get me all the record I previously saved in the DB, this should happen. You can see the return the record. You can see that we did not specify the date. The date is there. We did not specify the ID. The ID is there. All right. So this is how you create a quick and simple .NET application. And for us to really go far, like I said previously, and you gain the experience you need to gain, because it's not just training. Training is learning, but experience is what actually gets you the job. So please, I need you guys to grab this opportunity. The fact that somebody is paying 600K for you is a big deal. Please grab this opportunity, okay, and jump into this bootcamp so that you can get the best. And with this, I would say thank you. And if there's any questions, please drop it on the chat. And this session is going to end in 60 seconds. If no, let me just say in 3 minutes. If there are no questions, this session is going to end. So thank you, and thank you everyone. Once again, the link to the promo is on the chat. You can go to the chat and get it, and look forward to seeing you guys August 1st, 2025. You can feel free to drop your questions, and thank you everyone. I can see there's a question there. And after downloading Visual Studio, I saw it was installing 3.33 gigs. So what you downloaded was the setup. The real Visual Studio, yes, is 3 gigs. Okay, it's a very huge and software development tool. And you can see the magic it's doing for me, right? Especially with the use of Copilot. So yes, it's that big. Then thank you so much. I really enjoyed the training. Thank you too for joining us. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Goodbye.